Welcome back, everybody, to Out of Touch. I am your chipper and jovial and under the weather host, Kai Schwemmer. You guys are going to hear sniffles throughout the show. You're going to see my puffy face, the bags under my eyes. Man, it's been a crazy 24 hours. I've been going nonstop. I want you guys to know. Look, I know you guys get the appearance. You guys see. You guys just see that sometimes I'm a little late to the show. That sometimes I don't arrive exactly when I say I'm going to arrive, or the YouTube video is not up exactly when I say it will be. And look, my condolences, my apologies. I'm trying my best to produce goy slop so that you guys are entertained. Hold on, why is the mic so low? There we go. That's a little bit better. I promise you, I'm trying to get the goy slop out at the rates that I have that I've told you. But I promise you, I'm going 24/7. I'm going hard. I'm locked in. I promise. And today, hey man. Today, hey, Latter-day Groiper, what's going on? Let's see who's in the chat, actually, before we jump in. We got Mark the Cat, Yoni Yedge, Kreblub, Meow Groiper, Locky Key, let's freaking go, Linux, the Explodinator 3007. That might be my new favorite username. The Explodinator 3007. Thank you so much. I think that's the first time I've seen you. I just spilled mate all over myself. That's the second time I've done that this evening. Guys, I'll be honest, it's been a rough night. The reason the show is a little bit later, I usually only do 2 intro songs. The reason the show is a little bit later tonight is because I'm preparing my mate from my chipper and jovial out of touch mug. The way that I always do, the way that I prep for a show. That's my prepping ritual. That's what I do. Sue me. And I'm setting it up, and it's like you have to put it at an incline so the sherwa absorbs the water, and I've got it propped up. I've got it sitting on its side, and I bump my wall on the other half of my room, and it tips. And here, I'm gonna post it right now. We're gonna do a live tweet. We're gonna do a live tweet right now, so that you guys can see just what happened to me. I actually have to make sure I crop out the. There we go. Can you still see anything? Yeah, let me just crop that just a little bit more. Live right now. Yeah, go check my Twitter, Kai Schwemmer, x/Kai Schwemmer is I think what it is. Go check that out. I just showed you guys why it was that I was a little bit late. I hear a noise and I'm like, no, it can't be. I turn around and the yerba, the like fine leaves, they're tossed all over the floor. And so that was thing one. So I go and I have to add another song to the queue. To be fair, the music in the intro today, amazing. You guys see how I always choose music that's appropriate for the episode? Today I chose Peter Gabriel's Shock the Monkey, a banger from the 80s. May or may not have something to do with the thing that we'll be discussing on the stream. Nessa G. Wright, what's going on? Oh, and Brenosh? Brenosh, love to see this guy. Oh, are my comments locked? Yo, that's my bad. Thank you for mentioning that, Brenosh. Thank you for mentioning that. Dude, I appreciate you. I appreciate you big time. Oh, that's funny, actually. I made an error. I tweeted love right now. Guys, love right now. Everybody go love somebody right now. Not in a sussy way. Not in a sussy way. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. But yeah, so that was what happened to me before starting the stream. So we had to add an extra song into the intro. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really, and normally I would say, okay, screw this. I'm not even going to have the mate. But I need it. My face is so puffy. I need the caffeine to drain it, to slim it down so that I can look thinner, look better. So I can be thinner and look better, I mean. And so that I give you guys the best takes that my mind can come up with. I need the caffeine, the what would it be, caffeinogenic effects. Need the caffeinogenic effects of my mate. I mean, there we go. We got the out of touch mug with kaiclips. Yeah, no Bad Bunny in the intro. My apologies, gentlemen. Okay, guys. So yeah, that's what happened to me right before the stream. Like the song "Shock the Monkey" by Peter Gabriel alluded, today we will be covering a couple different things. One of them, yes, that Donald Trump made a video calling, basically calling Barack and Michelle Obama monkeys. Not actually calling them that, depicting them as such. And it seems for some Republicans, this is where the line is drawn. It seems that the inclusions in the Epstein files, the lack of deportations, the mismanagement of different pieces of legislation, the lying about the H-1B visas, the not throwing Hillary Clinton in jail, a variety of issues, all of the errors, all of the flaws, personal or legislative, that Trump may have, it seems that the line is drawn at depicting political enemies as apes. So, and that's what they were. They were chimpanzees. So let me be clear. It's not a, I know, before any uppity commenter comes in here and starts telling me, Kai, those aren't monkeys, they don't have tails. You're looking at a guy who took Primates 1 anthropology course at the University of Utah as an elective, as a political science major. If you think that I don't know ball, I know ball. I know monkey balls. I study them. I know what's up, okay? I know what's going on with monkeys. So for me to be able to talk about them again, to talk about monkeys, apes, primates in general on Out of Touch with kaiclips, you know, truly it is it's a very fun, very exciting time. And of course, we're going to be talking about the other big news. Did you guys hear this? Did you hear that Clavicular was frame-mogged by the president of an ASU frat? Did you hear about that? Crazy. A second Mog, or what is it? Yeah, a second Mog has hit the, or another Mog has hit the second Clavicular. I don't know. I don't know the way to do that. I don't know the way to transform those memes to combine them. Do you hear that, dude? Though, crazy. Clavicular gets frame-mogged at ASU by a frat president. Crazy. And this is really the, you know, we live in a slop reality. We live in a reality where all the news sucks, where it sucks so much. You want to know what the news headlines were that I was getting? The news headlines that I was getting earlier today. Here we go. Number 1, conservative influencer Sarah Stock deletes accounts after affair leak. Number 2, Clavicular gets frame-mogged at ASU frat party. Number 3, Lily Gaddis and Pearl Davis clash with slurs in online feud. When is it over? When, for the love of everything good, when is it over? When do we have to stop reading stories like that? Amy goes, insane. I haven't been able to eat since hearing the news of him getting mogged. That's how I feel. After hearing that my friend Clavicular got frame-mogged, yeah, I don't think I'll ever be able to stomach anything again. Thank you, by the way. This is, now we'll actually get into the intro for the show a little bit. The mate water's cold. As if I needed anything else. As if I needed just one more thing to make this day so terrible. No, but it's great. But I'm having a good time because I'm with you guys. And I've got actually a lot to report from the weekend. Before we do that, I'd like to ask every single one of you guys, share this stream right now with an individual who you love because it will brighten their day. That's a guarantee. That's the kaiclips guarantee. Or your money back. This show will brighten your day or your money back. If your spirits are low, come watch the stream and they'll be lifted. I'm under the weather, and just doing the show is improving my mood. Just being able to look at you guys, this parasocial relationship that you and I have, it makes me happy. It boosts my spirit. It boosts my energy. So share it right now. Please support the stream. Follow us. Rumble. Kick. Kick is frankly where we're going to be doing most of the streaming. So if you are watching on Rumble, if you're one of the few, like Sophia or like Burger Enjoyer, oh my goodness, what is up? Why is this guy talking? If you are one of the people on Rumble, Burger Enjoyer, I know you're an OG Rumbler, but I would encourage you guys to make Kick accounts to go join us there. Kick is fantastic. They take less money, and also we've got gifts there now, so you can come into the Kick chat and you can enjoy all of the wonderful gifts that we have. Yoni Yeji, by the way, I do read the comments, but I don't address them during the show. We'll get to them at a separate segment. I promise you, I'm not just ignoring every single one of you guys. It's just not, a constantly interactive show. Questions, by the way, we will take through powerchat.live/kaiclips. We'll type that in so you guys can get access to it. Oh my goodness, that's bright. So if you'd like to support the show, that really is the best way to send in money to support the building of a studio, to get me out of get me out of the studio that was leaked, the little dorm that I'm in. There's the link for everybody who is interested. And oh no. Hi Kai, I'm a fan. I'm Somali conservative Republican. Good to meet you, Big Habit. Good to meet you. Man, this is really bitter stuff. Okay. Yeah, and what have I been up to? Well, speaking of jokes that are maybe not received so well by their audiences, yesterday I had the opportunity to attend one of Utah's Lincoln Days. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of Lincoln Days. This is an opportunity for fundraising at the county level in the state of Utah. Each kind of county GOP organizes it. Great. Had a great time, a great dinner. And the two featured guests at this Lincoln Day were Benny Johnson and Kevin James. No, not Kevin James. Kevin Jackson. Not Kevin James. My apologies. That would have been crazy. Kevin Jackson, who was formerly on Fox News, got kicked off for being racist. The individual in question's black, by the way. Kevin Jackson's black. And they both gave speeches. And let me just say, Benny, we love Benny. He's a little cringe at times, but he's got some lion energy a little bit. Oh, you know who else I saw there, by the way? Kwaku. Mr. Kwaku L was going undercover as the photographer at the event. Yeah, what's up with that, big guy? I don't know if he's watching this, but we're watching him. So I'm over there. We go and we take a photo with Benny Johnson, and there's Mr. Kwaku L. There is Mr. Paul was just an overzealous disciple. That was a quote. That was a quote of Kwaku's. Crazy stuff, right? There he was, taking photos at the conservative event, despite the fact that he's a liberal. So that was interesting. He was undercover. Must have been. And yeah, Benny's speech, he kind of went all over the place. He talked about, make the left play by their own rules, have a lot of kids. But I think he kind of misjudged his audience a little bit. The audience was probably Republicans, average age 40 to 70, and mostly Latter-day Saints. These are not the guys who are gonna go the hardest per se. This is not a constituency that is going to, love the blood sports. These are guys who you really actually do have to convince them that deportations should be happening, because they see them and they see that they're mean and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. So, it's not the most hardcore part of the Republican base. I don't think Benny understood that very well. And he didn't really have a speech planned out. He just started kind of riffing. Based. I do the same thing. I respect it. But he was saying he was just going off the rocker. And then Kevin Jackson, his whole speech was just jokes about black people. And his whole thing was and it's actually a very appropriate tie-in. He's like, hey, white folks, you guys don't need to feel so remorseful as if you've done something wrong when you haven't, committed any crime, when you haven't done anything wrong at all. Kevin Jackson gives a long address, and a lot of it's boomer slop. Let's be honest. A lot of these comments, a lot of the, the stuff is boomer slop. What's his name? Benny goes up there and starts talking about The View, and you know what it was? It was that Benny was being insulting, and Latter-day Saints really don't like that. If there's anything that really bugs, especially older Latter-day Saints, it's when people are mean. Don't get me wrong, it's they're still conservative. These are very conservatively principled people, one of the most conservative groups, but they hate it when you say mean things about people. And this is why the state of Utah is one of the only states that did not trend more towards Trump. And the story we'll talk about today is another perfect example of some of the stuff that Trump will do that Republicans in Utah really don't like. But let's what else was there? Oh yeah, and then today I went out and I was able to do some signature gathering. That was a lot of fun. Turning Point Action has come out to Utah. They're helping Utah with the repeal Prop 4 process. And you know, let me just say, you guys know me. We've been very critical of Turning Point in the past, but being able to get their help repealing Prop 4, that is pretty goated. So we've got our alliance there. We're balling out, having a good time. And yeah, so that's what I did this morning. And then after that, I went to the Holy Rebellion. The Holy Rebellion is an LDS apologetics account, and they put together a Peacemakers Summit. And this Peacemakers Summit went really hard. It was a really fun time. I got to meet a lot of cool Latter-day Saint friends. It was awesome. It was a really cool time. And I was there as an attendee. I was not there as one of like the speakers or panelists. But it was really cool because when the event ended, a ton of people came up and they're like, yo, we saw you on Michael Knowles. You're such a legend. Thank you for defending the faith. You know, not to self-glaze. But it was awesome. It was a super, super cool moment. It's very cool to see the way that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints rallies around, you know, individuals who... Oh, did I give the wrong link? Bruh. Thank you, Lockie. It's really cool to see the way that people rally around. You guys hear this police sirens? I live in the hood. It's good to see how people rally around people who are willing to go and stand up for something, right? And for me, I have the benefit of having been born in Utah, right? So it doesn't even come as this thing that requires courage to stand up for my faith. It's just, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. That's what we've been up to today. Then I was going to take a 20-minute nap. It turned into a 2-hour nap because I'm so under the weather. And now I'm here with you guys. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get into it. And let's actually do that. Let's jump right in. Ooh, let's go. Let's flip and go. Let's watch this. Let's watch this epic video. Okay, come on, whoa. Why won't they post the video? Where is this? I'm trying to find an article that includes it. Ugh. This is from yesterday. This is from last night. Well, yeah, let's read this. Let's read through this. Is that why you look tired? Yeah, I got to get out of the hood, man. These gunshots at night, they keep me up. Every super chat helps in getting me out of the hood of downtown Provo. Here it is. Okay, where we'll pull up the video in a separate tab. We'll pull this up on Twitter so that you guys can actually see the video. I hate that these they don't embed like the tweet or anything like that. I know it was taken down, but yeah, at least download the video. Let's check this out, and we'll read his Truth Social post as well. Alrighty. Okay. Here we go. From Loomer. I actually don't even want to. I don't want to platform Laura Loomer. I do not even want to platform Laura Loomer. Where is... Okay. I guess we will. She seems to be the one that has the best quality video uploaded here. Bear with me, everybody. I want to make sure that you guys can see this as well. And how is the chat doing tonight? How are you guys doing with your Saturday? We got the Super Bowl tomorrow. You excited for that? Oh, it's still in black and white from our funny little video the other day. Alrighty. Here we go, gentlemen. Here we go. We'll skip to the beginning. Here's the video that President of the United States of America, President Donald John Trump, posted on social media last night at like 1 a.m. Here it is. Everybody ready? Let's go. Ah, there he is. And there's the little Pepe. In the jungle, the quiet jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. I'll pause right here. I just want to say, why does he include Harry Sisson in everything? Like, he did that video like a couple months ago where he was, dropping poop onto Harry Sisson from a jet? Why is Harry Sisson included in it? These are like elected officials and then a TikToker. Like, why is Harry Sisson in this? Whoopi Goldberg, love that. All right, so truly, the worst crime, let's be honest, guys, the worst thing that Donald Trump did in this video is that he posted AI slop. He posted AI slop. That's an unforgivable sin. I don't think I'll ever vote for him or any relative of his, any blood or kin of his, ever. Okay? Just want to make that clear. Second of all, given that apes, gorillas, chimpanzees, monkeys are awesome, this is actually super cool. More seriously, it's super obvious that what this is an attempt to do, and Trump admits this. We'll read his statement in just a sec. It's super obvious that he is saying they're monkeys because they are black. That is what he's saying. There's no two ways about it. He's using their physical characteristics to determine what kind of animal they would be. And you need look no further than the fact that here he includes Adam Schiff as a giraffe. The joke about Adam Schiff being he is pencil neck Adam Schiff. So I think it's just, because I know I saw some people who were saying, well, look, where is it? Yeah, this African American gentleman, he's what is it, a lemur? So it's not racial. Democrats, hey Democrats, why do you see everything with race? It's 100% about race. He 100% is just calling them monkeys because they're black. If there is any right-winger, any Republican who sees this and tries to make some argument that it wasn't, these people are stupid. Do not intentionally obfuscate. Just admit it. He's calling them monkeys because they're black. That's literally, there's no two ways about it. I'm right-wing. I'm not going to sit here and coddle you and tell you that Trump didn't mean it because of the race, because Cory Booker is a lemur or whatever. No, it's 100% because they're black. And this is, if I told you, hey, Donald Trump made a video, or published a video rather, where he depicts Michelle Obama and Barack Obama as monkeys, you'd probably be like, no. You'd probably think there's got to be some more context. It's probably just a tongue-in-cheek joke. And then you see the video and it's literally the opening frames of the video are Michelle Obama and Barack Obama as monkeys. So that is just I don't know. We live in a crazy reality. But the weirder thing to me is to see the amount of Republicans who say, you know what? That's it. That's where I draw the line. Killing people, honestly, mass deportations and needing to kill people, I understand that is part of our political project. That is the will. We have a will to power. It is okay. I will stand by my president. It may not be pretty, but it's necessary. I will stand by my president. And to have those same Republicans go, what did he say about the Obamas? I can never vote for him again. It's just so ridiculous. It shows you how flipped on its head our political system is. It really is just political theater. And this is kind of the big takeaway from this. You know, is it lovely? Is it lovely? No. Could he have definitely not posted that and gotten less heat? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, is this going to inflict more damage than like any of the proposals? And when I say inflict more damage, right, I don't mean to say that all of his proposals are negative, but I mean to say that they will cause more physical harm just by the nature of them being either controversial or difficult to execute. It's all of these things, deportations, closing the border, these are meaner than saying this or like calling people monkeys or anything like that. But we live in a political paradigm where what you say and the optics of certain things matters way more than what the actual policy is, or if it affects anything at all. And that's just, it's just goofy. And so I have zero respect, really, for Republicans who see that and are like, you know, this is really where I draw the line. This is really where it goes too far. Donald Trump, you've gone too far. Did you hear like the, you know, grab him by the whatever tapes? Did you hear those? You know, this guy is a billionaire. I promise you he's done and said things that are probably worse than that. And it's also just this kind of presumption, or this assumption rather, that everybody makes, that behind closed doors, people are not like racist or do not have racy humor. Do I think that Donald Trump is like a super terrible racist? No. This is the guy who proposed $1 billion platinum plan for Black Americans at the end of his first term in office. Do I think this guy's like the most racist guy ever? No, this was the guy who was touting black unemployment for all of his campaign. Lowest black unemployment. I can't tell you how many times I heard that. If I took a shot every single time I heard that, I would be dead. I would be dead of alcohol poisoning. Chief Trumpster's really hitting me up in the middle of my stream saying, play Clash Royale. Yeah, let me just pause real quick, Chief. Let me just pause and hit a match. Let me just 3-crown someone real quick. Anyway. But it's just like, you know, are we serious? Can we be serious people for a second? You either care about black people or you coddle them like infants. You infantilize them. And Republicans really just can't figure anything out, man. They can't. And they fall so easily into the trap of liberal politics and of liberal dialectics, where the worst thing you can be is a racist. And let's pull up here from the Associated Press. Trump's racist post about Obama is deleted after backlash, despite White House earlier defending it. Here we go. Washington AP. President Trump's racist social media post featuring a former President Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle Obama, as primates in a jungle was deleted Friday after backlash from both Republicans and Democrats who criticized the video as offensive. Trump said later Friday that he won't apologize for the post. Quote, I didn't make a mistake, he said. And that's where you got to say, you know, it is a little goated. The fact that he is, he just will not apologize. Next, the Republican president's Thursday night post was blamed on a staffer after widespread backlash from civil rights leaders to veteran Republican senators for its treatment of the nation's first black president and first lady. A rare admission of a misstep by the White House. The deletion came hours after Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt dismissed fake outrage over the post. After calling for its removal, including by Republicans, the White House said a staffer had posted the video erroneously. Okay, let's be honest about this. It's possible. It is possible that a staffer posted this, but is it likely? I think it's more likely that Trump posted it. I frankly think, especially when you look at like the DHS staffers, the social media guys there, I tend to believe that the ones who are most disposed to posting AI slop are not the teen or the 20-year-old staffers. They are the congressmen themselves. They are, you know, your, what was his name? Who's the Indian guy with the glasses who just posted AI slop about older men dating younger women? He debated Nick Fuentes. What is this guy's name? You know who I'm talking about? He posted this AI slop video of this AI blonde girl talking about how older men and younger women belong together because it makes sense. Oh, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh D'Souza, yep. So, yeah, I think the older folks are more inclined to post AI slop. I'll be honest. And they honestly can't tell the difference a lot of the time. I think Trump probably made that. There's a possibility Trump typed the prompts in, or that he got it sent to him by someone, and he was like, yo, this is hilarious, I'm posting that. I think that's way more likely than the staffer doing it. And you look at these kind of blunders, I'm going to be honest, there's a high chance that Senator Ted Cruz was the one who was liking incest pornography on 9/11. I don't think it was a staffer. I'll be honest with you. If it was a staffer, that sucks. But I think it was probably Ted Cruz. But anything that I say ever, I just want you guys to know. And if you ever see an out-of-pocket tweet by me, if you ever see me saying some crazy stuff, I've been told to say that by a staffer, by my social media manager. If you ever see anything crazy on my social media, just know that's what that is. It's not me. It's not me. I just want to, cover my bases there. Just wanted to make sure you guys know that. But yeah, Jack Attack MMA goes, Trump should plead ignorance and say that he thought the AI slop was real. Plausible. True. Donald Trump defends himself saying, I didn't know it was fake. I posted it because I thought the Democrats had made this video. I started it. I just forgot I recorded it. My Trump accent isn't as good as my Milo accent, but anyway, we'll continue. It says the Republican president's Thursday night post was blamed on a staffer after widespread backlash from civil rights leaders to veteran Republican senators for its treatment of the nation's first black president and first lady, a rare admission of a misstep by the White House. The deletion came hours after Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt dismissed fake outrage over the post. After calls for its removal, including by Republicans, the White House said a staffer had posted the video erroneously. The post was part of a flurry of overnight activity on Trump's Truth Social account that amplified his false claims that the 2020 election was stolen from him, despite the courts around the country and Trump's first-term general finding no evidence of systemic fraud. Trump has a record of intensely personal criticism of the Obamas and of using incendiary, sometimes racist rhetoric, from feeding the lie that Obama was not a native-born U.S. citizen to crude generalizations about black countries. The post came in the first week after Black History Month and days after a Trump proclamation cited the contributions of black Americans to our national greatness and the American principles of liberty, justice, and equality. Don't you love that, by the way? Hey, happy Black Lives... Hold on, is it? Yeah, it's Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History Month, everybody. Thank you so much, President of the United States of America, Donald John Trump, for posting this National Black History Month 2026 proclamation. This year, we celebrate the most significant milestone in our nation's history, 250 glorious years of American independence. From the beginning, our country has been blessed with countless black American heroes. For more than 2.5 centuries, these legends have made timeless contributions to our government, laws, military, economy, workforce, and culture. With their tremendous legacy in mind, as president, I proclaim that black history is not distinct from American history. Rather, the history of black Americans is an indispensable chapter in our grand American story. 1 week later, literally 3 days later, this is Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, his wife, as monkeys in the jungle. Literally not 3 days. Not 3 days. After saying, this month we are also reminded that the source of our strength is not rooted in our differences, but in our shared commitment to freedom under one beautiful flag. Instead, we celebrate the contributions of black Americans to our national greatness and their enduring commitment to the American principles of liberty, justice, and equality. The principles that saved the Western Hemisphere from monarchies and empires, ended slavery, saved Europe, put a man on the moon, built the freest, most just, and most prosperous society ever known to mankind. Since the great Prince Estabrook became the first black man to shed blood for our emerging nation at the Battle of Lexington more than 250 years ago, heroic black Americans have valiantly fought for our liberty on the battlefields, and in the pews of our churches, and in our shops, restaurants, and businesses. Across every generation, legendary black Americans have fiercely defended the values set forth in the Declaration of Independence and helped to make our republic the greatest country in the history of the world. From the unflinching faith of Lemuel Haynes, the soaring prose of Phyllis Wheatley, an unmatched resolve of Harriet Tubman, to the towering intellect of Frederick Douglass, the fearlessness of Jesse Owens, the brilliance of Katherine Johnson and Thomas Sowell, countless black patriots have stood as the vanguards of our freedom and are among some of the most heroic Americans to have ever lived. And also, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are monkeys. It's like, dude, the doublespeak is crazy. It's beyond parody. Frankly, I'd prefer if he just like said the N-word, dude. Like, Trump, what is the point in like having this big long statement about these amazing black Americans? And look, you know, again, do I think Trump is this profound racist? No. Is he a little bit racist? Yeah, I think we all are. I think everybody's a little bit racist. Sue me. Everybody's a little bit racist. Do you think he says the gamer word? Absolutely. Jeffrey Epstein said the gamer word, which is arguably worse than his crimes against children. That's a good question. Hey, Democrats, what do you think was worse? The sex trafficking or saying the N-word? Which one do you think was a worse crime? The blackmail? The blackmail of politicians? So, anyway, we'll continue. As president, I am fighting to restore the nation that these titans helped build and to make America greater than ever before. In their honor and to commemorate 250 years of American liberty, I have authorized the construction of the National Garden of American Heroes, a new statuary park honoring our greatest Americans, including black icons like Booker T. Washington, Jackie Robinson, Aretha Franklin, Coretta Scott King, Muhammad Ali, and many others. Last spring, I also signed an executive order to promote excellence and innovation at historically black colleges and universities, so the next generation of leaders in the black community will learn from these great American examples. And I am fighting every day to make our neighborhoods safer, groceries more affordable, and the American dream more attainable for all Americans. And he closes it off strong. Now, therefore, I, Donald John Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim February 2026 as National Black History Month. And I call upon public officials, educators, librarians, and all the people of the United States to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And also, Barack and Michelle Obama are monkeys. I don't know. It's so... Maybe this isn't even a news show at this point. Maybe you and I, we are not even discussing the news. But every once in a while, it is fun to look at the state of our discourse. At the end of the day, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. This video by President Trump matters as much as the video of when he released the AI slop of him flying, what was it, an F-15, something like that, an F-22, and dropping poop on Harry Sisson's head. It doesn't matter. And yet, here's another recent update from AP News. Republicans rarely criticize Trump in his second term. A racist post briefly changed that. Let's be clear about something. Republicans are more upset with Donald Trump posting this AI slop video than they are with the fact that the Epstein files were lied about and obstructed from release. Like, put these things together. Put these things together. This is what I hate about politics. The worst thing about politics, and every single one of you guys, this is maybe my pitch. If I am to make a call to action based off of this video, or off of this show and off of this story, the call to action is this: if you go into politics, the thing I pray, before the studio falls apart here, the thing that I pray of every single one of you guys is that you act seriously. The studio is really just falling apart today. I hope it doesn't fall again, dude. That was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing to have my studio fall in front of you guys. Okay, so if you go into politics, whatever you do, the thing I pray, the thing I hope and pray of every single one of you is that you just act seriously. I am so sick of politicians who grandstand like Marjorie Taylor Greene about the fact that they get death threats. You're a sitting congressman. That's normal. That happens to literally everybody. You are not special. You are not unique. Is it good? Of course not. But do we care? No, we don't. I'm so sick and tired. I don't know if you guys are if you've been around long enough to remember this, about how 4 years ago, it was one of the first shows I ever did. One of the first shows of Out of Touch I ever did, 5 years ago now, actually. When you have sitting representatives, like, for instance, why am I blanking on his name? Paul Gosar. Paul Gosar, sitting representative in the House of Representatives. And in this case, it was literally a staffer that posted it. You know how it was a staffer that posted the video in question? It's because it was well edited. It was well edited. It wasn't AI slop. AI didn't exist at the time. It was an edited version of the Attack on Titan introduction where Paul Gosar's face was put onto Eren Yeager's visage, and all of the Titans had the faces of like Democratic congressmen, like who was it? AOC was there. I don't know who else. Adam Schiff, maybe a couple others. They were all there. They were all there, right? And of course, in the Attack on Titan intro, the Titans are defeated. They are, killed by Eren Yeager. But the House censured Paul Gosar because of this video. Because of this edit that was clearly, and I'll take my freaking ears out, I forget about that every time. They censored this video that was obviously created by a staffer. That was, they tried to claim it was a threat of violence because Eren Yeager like kills the Titans in the video, rather than it just being like a meme. And this is what I hate. What I hate is in the aftermath of January 6th, representatives like AOC claiming that they were going to be killed. Girl, they found your shoes. They just took photo with your shoes. They were probably, these protesters were in defeat or something, man. They weren't going to kill you. And this is the question you have to throw back. This is the question I've been throwing back at a lot of liberals during our campus debates with Reawaken USA. I've been saying, look, do you seriously believe that if the representatives were in the Congress when the protesters stormed the Capitol, do you think they would have killed the representatives? Do you think that would have happened? Absolutely not. You think these guys who got there didn't really know what to do with themselves, took like the lantern, or the lectern rather, the lantern. They took the lectern, the speaker's lectern. You think these guys were going to go and like right-wing death squad a bunch of sitting congressmen? No, they weren't. But politics relies on the ability of politicians to stoke justifiable fear off of circumstances that are completely opposite in their nature. It relies on the stupidity and the willingness of every single Democrat and congressman or congresswoman to go along with the story that says that Paul Gosar was not just posting a meme, but he was actually making a credible threat against the lives of these individuals. Does it lack a little bit of decorum? Sure. Is it irreverent? Sure. Is it, the kind of stuff that a sitting legislator should post? No. I wish there was more professionalism in Congress, in the House, in the Senate, in the office of the presidency, dude. I don't think this is a good look. That's the president of the United States. You're posting videos of like monkeys, everybody singing, in the jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. It's AI slop. I don't want our president to be doing that. I want our president to be securing the southern border wall, to actually be going through with deportations, to actually apply tariff policy, to not walk back every single threat that he makes. I want all of that. I couldn't care less if he was posting AI slop. And in fact, if anything, it makes me like him less. But yet, I am so much more sick and tired of Democrats and Republicans alike who are going to morally grandstand on these issues that simply do not matter. I'm sick of politics that are so shaped and framed around historical narratives that themselves aren't even entirely true. Here, what do we have? We have within the proclamation that Trump made, oh, we're going to be making statues and recognizing the efforts of Harriet Tubman. Who are you going to do next? Rosa Parks? Rosa Parks was a paid agitator. I don't know if she was paid, but she was an organized agitator. The entire story of Rosa Parks is something that was concocted up by Marxists, by radical progressives, in order to challenge the current legal statutes at the time in a way that was totally coordinated behind the scenes. And she herself was a communist. And I'll say, when Republicans begin legitimizing these same talking points, these same historical fictions, when these kind of proclamations are made, and when Republicans say, hey, look, the Epstein files, that's all well and good. You can obstruct that as much as you like. But the moment you say mean things about black people, I'm not going to vote for you anymore. When Republicans act that way, it shows us that our party's not serious. And I don't want a party who's unwilling to win. I don't want a party who is going to leave its political resolve at the door as soon as somebody says something that is, that is a little racy. And this is where you actually do see the strength of somebody like Trump winning. This is something I go back and forth on all the time, because do I want a politician who is more virtuous? Yes. We just talked about that on the last show. We want people who are virtuous, who are free of sin, who are, unimpeachable in their personal ethics. But at the same time, it kind of helps when somebody can win in spite of their baggage. When Trump was able to win in spite of the things that the media said about him, the things that he himself had said that sounded terrible, all of that is actually very valuable. And so I go back and forth, and to some degree, you need people to win with baggage because it allows you to tell the people in power that you don't care about the political correctness, you care about saving the country. But anyway, hey, man, I had to clear my throat. Goodness gracious. That was, that's the story of the monkey. That's how Trump shocked the monkey, Peter Gabriel style. I don't know, man. I'm just so sick of it. If we could stop posting AI slop, please. If we could please. And you know what, actually? I want to have a conversation, because I just saw him pop up in the chat. Ilya, I'm sorry I forgot to tell you when I was going live. We'll read through some super chats, and then we're going to have a conversation with an old political TikTok contemporary, a guy who I, seriously disagree with, but seriously respect for much of the same reasons that I'm talking about right now, which is that he genuinely is concerned about the issues he talks about, not in a performative way, but in a serious way. Yeah, Theophilus Bartholomew, I am sick. How could you tell? But we're going to be chatting with him as well in just a second. So, Ilya, yeah, let me send you my Discord. That way you can hop on, and I won't have too much time to chat. You can tell I'm under the weather. But we should absolutely chat. I'd love to talk about, what you're mentioning. And, maybe the chat takes something from it. So, the Truth Social follow-up. We didn't read it. Let me read through the Truth Social follow-up, actually. I don't even know if I've seen it. Let's see this. Here it is. Why is it so difficult to find? Hold on. No way.
Social media post that you took down earlier today, the White House says that a staffer sent it. Who sent it, and are you going to fire them?
I looked at it. No, I looked at it. I saw it, and I just looked at the first part. It was about voter fraud in someplace, Georgia. There was a lot of voter fraud, 2020 voter fraud.
What is he? Voter fraud? What are we talking about? It's just a video of like the Obamas as monkeys.
I guess during the end of it, there was some kind of a picture that people don't like. I wouldn't like it either, but I didn't see it. I looked at the first part, and it was really about voter fraud and the machines, how crooked it is, how disgusting it is. Then I gave it to the people. Generally, they look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody didn't, and they posted, and we took it down, and we did it. You know, but that was a voter fraud that nobody talks about. They don't like to talk about that post. We took it down.
Yeah, there's no way he didn't see it. There's no way in heck that he didn't see it. Have you tried medicine? I don't believe in medicine. I don't even believe in it at all.
Mr. President, a number of Republicans are calling on you to apologize.
Yeah,
for
Tim
that
Scott,
post.
Republican Tim Scott.
Is that something?
Wait, where's the full post? Can we see this? And where is his response? Why is it so difficult to find primary source documents these days, man? I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of the news. Is CNN going to come through for us? We just got to look up his Truth Social, honestly. And you know what actually is probably going to be the best place to find this? It's going to be Twitter. Twitter, unironically, so goated. Yeah, where's the full video? Where is the full video, man? Trump monkey video. Kai literally sick of this clips. Dude, I literally am sick of this. I literally am sick of this. The 62-second video mainly debunked 2020 election fraud claims, but ended with an AI-generated animation parodying Disney's The Lion King. Okay, so where's the full video? Ah, man. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I don't want to see Ossoff. I don't want to see... Dude, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen again. You guys just got to see this. This is the kind of slop I hate from Republicans. This is the kind of slop that drives me up the walls. Call me Spider-Man the way I'm being driven up the walls. Like, can we look at this for a second? Can we look at this for a second? They seem very selective in their outrage. Racist? Not racist. Are we serious right now? Are we serious? Are we so serious right now? I hate this. I hate this. A white man will never be upset at the fact that he's compared to an ape. Ever. It's not racist. It literally is not. Is it racist to call black people apes? Yeah, probably. Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. Sorry. These things are different. People understand that. That's the whole reason these kind of things are funny when the jokes are made. It's because there is, that racial background to it. Yeah, this is not racist. I do not care. I do not care that you compare President Donald Trump to a monkey. I literally could not care less. And I hate when Republicans act like they care about stuff to point out my leftist hypocrisy. Dude, if I hear leftist hypocrisy one more time, I'm going to crash out. I'm going to crash out so hard. Anyway. Let's, can somebody link it? Can somebody link Trump's statement? I cannot find it for the life of me. And in the meantime, we'll jump to our super chats here. Thank you so much. Let's see if we have any on Kick. If you guys do want a super chat on Kick, we'll read through your super chats there. Hey, Lockie. Thank you, Lockie.
Lockie sent $30. Did you hear my brothers yell at the ICE protesters?
Well, I don't know if they were your brothers, but probably. I mean, if they were at BYU, then yeah. Dude, that was so funny. I'm going to be honest with you guys. That was so funny. I was counter-protesting an ICE protest at BYU. And first of all, a lot of F words being yelled. There was this gal with pink hair who organized the protest. there was this gal with pink hair there, and she had a kafia on, as they always do, because you literally cannot separate any conflict. You know, this is intersectionality in play, right? You know, every single event for liberation must include every single other movement, every single other social progressive cause. So if you have an anti-ICE protest, it has to also be a Black Lives Matter protest, and it also has to be a pro-Palestine protest. All of these things have to be happening at once, because that is the nature of intersectionalism or intersectionality. And let me see as well as if Ilya sent over a friend request here. Or Ilya, if you want to send me yours. Oh, what the? Yeah, here. We got him. Anyway, so... Man, what was I saying? Yeah, so already, I get to this protest outside of BYU. What they were protesting is the fact that Customs Border Protection had a stand. They had a booth at the career fair. Asian Mormon. Asian Mormon. Huge W. Is this our goat? Is this our goat or what? Is this our goat or what?
Asian Mormon sent $88.
Thank you, Asian Mormon. Love you. Yo, hold up. Hey, yo, hold up. Why Asian Mormon got a banger today, though? Hey, yo. I wonder if I can, Dude, what a banger, bro. We love Asian Mormon. Hey, yo, can we get a Wasian in the chat? Can we get Wasian in the chat? Can we get Wasian in our kick chat, guys? Can we get a, I don't know, what's our gift that we're gonna post in the kick chat? Yo, this is a Nyan Cat type moment. Nyan Cat moment. Dude, this, man, I don't feel sick. When I listen to this song, I don't feel sick anymore. I feel my spirits rejuvenated. Latter-day Chud, thank you for posting the stream. You're doing your part, Patriot. You're doing your part. Let's go. We will have another video out very soon, by the way. Hey, brother, don't usually catch the live, but was free tonight. Keep up the great work, GOAT. Hey, thank you, Carrick Von K. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Hey, we love you. Thank you for tuning in, man. We appreciate you spending the evening with us. We've got good tunes supplied to us by Asian Mormon. Thank you as well, Brother Johns, Dallas Bell, Speed. Thank you guys for the super chats, or for following rather, subscribing on YouTube. We love you guys. So good, man. This is what Clavicular was listening to when he got frame mog. Somebody make a dude. We need more TikTok edits. I really think I need to get back on TikTok, especially now, you know, that we're gonna talk to Ilya. This is TikTok coming back. Let me see. I don't know if he's interested in doing video. I actually don't know if he's doxxed. Not the statement, but this is the video Trump posted. It seems it was about voter fraud, but the last second shows the gram of Obama as a monkey. Let's pull this up. Thank you, dude. Brenosh, this is why you're a mod. This is why Brenosh is a mod, dude. Wait a minute. Okay. Hold up. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is actually so crazy. This is totally different. I don't know how we didn't see this. Admittedly, hey, L investigative journalism on my part. Why was it easier for me to find the full video than it was to find the video that Trump reposted? All right, let's see this. I'm going to share it. All the commentary, by the way, is still the same. All the commentary is still the same. But maybe, you know, it seems like Trump's main point was probably not to just call them monkeys. I'll admit, guys, maybe he wasn't super duper racist. Maybe he was a wholesome chud nonetheless. Maybe he was respecting whatchamacallit. Here it is.
Initiated by a court order, the Michigan investigation team obtained forensic access to a DS200 tabulator, the machine that counts the votes. A Telit 4G wireless chip manufactured in Taiwan was discovered embedded.
Hey, let's flip and go. Thank you, Asian Mormon. There's the 12. Big, huge shout outs from this guy.
Asian Mormon sent $12. Utah needs 1.6 million deportations.
Man, thank you, Asian Mormon. We love you. Seriously, the GOAT of the live stream, the George Soros. How do you say George? What would be the Chinese equivalent of the name George? Hold on. Chinese way of saying George. Like, is it like Spanish where you have words that, you know, names that translate, like William in Spanish is Guillermo, and, you know, James in Spanish is Santiago. Do you have the same thing? Probably not, right? Because it's a different language tree. Chinese way of saying George is Pinyin. Zhaoji? Hold on, I'm going to have to hear that. Can I hear this, please? Can I hear that?
Xiao
Zhao?
Zhi.
Zhi. Zhao Zhi. Zhao Zhi. Thank you. Let's flip and go. George Soros. How to say George Soros in Chinese? How to say George Soros in Chinese. Is this it? Zhao Qi.
乔治索罗斯
Zhao Qi Soros. That almost sounds more Japanese. Sulosi. Oh, Sulosi.
乔治索罗斯
Thank you. Thank you, Zhao Qi Suolosi. Thank you. Dude, you know, Asian Mormon really is the Asian Mormon really is the Zhao Qi Suolosi of the stream. He really is, bro. Hey, yo, shout out, Mr. Since we don't know your name, shout out, big shout out to Zhao Qi Suolosi of the stream. We love you. Thank you, Zhao Qi Suolosi. What a goat. Anyway, we'll little detour there. We'll keep watching our video.
Into the motherboard. The voting machine tapes clearly indicate modem engagement and transmission of election data.
Why am I so
Some
big?
of the anomalies that we noticed in the 2020 general elections, that 5 key states all stopped counting at a certain time in these key battleground states.
Fortune cookie George Soros.
These were all where the software, Dominion machines, ESNS machines were used, the Smartmatic, the GEMS software. So when the vote stopped counting, and this has been noted in other countries as well, President Trump was significantly ahead. When reporting and counting resumed, there was a massive spike occurred that favored Joe Biden.
Dude, that's a W. That's a W, troll. I'm not gonna lie. Like a little jump scare. What it probably was, he was probably screen recording. He was probably just screen recording some video, and it like went to the other part of the video. That's kind of keck. He's just boomer. He literally is just a boomer. Can we get a president who's not a boomer for once? President Schwemmer, he would not let this slide. President Schwemmer would not let this slide. Asian Mormon, by the way, said Utah needs 1.6 million deportations. Dude, it's crazy. It's been a huge black pill. I'm going to be honest. Like, seeing the walkouts, and actually we'll dive into that because I was a part of a walkout when I was like 14 after Parkland. I was a part of a walkout just because the entire school walked out and it was like, oh, we're out of class. Let's go. But now kids are like walking out to protest ICE in middle schools in Utah. And when I was 14, right, and you know, Fox News was reporting on this, Fox 13 from Utah. I saw them and I like chatted with them. They didn't include all of the interview, but what I said is like, you know, I think that a lot of people just want gun control reform because they're agitated, because they're upset. when I think that we should really just be calculating and looking at what would actually be good. Like, what would actually be a good change or reform to our gun laws. That was my statement. My statement was super measured. I'm like, look, I'm out here showing respect for the lives lost. And I still remember it when I was like 14, and when I did that walkout, I was super clear that it's like, I'm not walking out because I want massive gun control. I'm only walking out because, yeah, it is a shame that these 11 or 12 kids lost their lives. But I think that a lot of people are supporting gun control that wouldn't actually fix any of it. And we should, instead of making drastic change, we should be like measured. I said something to that effect. And this guy on Twitter, there's a guy on Twitter who gives me so much grief. He thinks I was a leftist agitator when I was 14. But yeah, so I know what it's like. You know, if you're in middle school, if you're in high school, you're going to walk out. It doesn't even matter if you agree with these issues. You're going to walk out anyway because you're out of school. But now it's like these kids are flying like the Mexican or the Venezuelan flags. And you look at the demographics of the high schools too, and it's like, it is very different. It is a totally different game. And I just don't think this creates any kind of cohesion later on. And, you know, Ilya and I, we disagree so drastically on that. But we'll talk with him. Anyway, Lockie, yeah, the protests were hilarious. One of my buddies was there, and he got a whistle. He got one of their whistles that they were blowing. And they didn't know he was there like incognito as a conservative. So this guy gave me his whistle. He's like, yo, you want it? I'm like, yes. And so when the leftists came up, they were shutting us down completely. They were like, don't talk to these guys. They led an F TPUSA, F conservatives or something like that chant outside of BYU, by the way. Hey, stop saying F words, okay? You guys signed the honor code. If Brigham Young were here, you guys would all be excommunicated. That's a little bit of a joke. That's a little tongue-in-cheek. Not that tongue-in-cheek. Not much, actually. But still, they're like chanting the F word. They are being disruptive. They are stopping journalists from doing their jobs. I was there with the Cougar Chronicle, one of the student newspapers. People were literally saying, don't talk to them. It's the Cougar Chronicle. They're alt-right. It's like, we're a campus, like, news student publication. Like, what are we doing here? And they're shutting us down. You know, they're waving the signs. They're yelling. They're whistling to the microphones, to the cameras. But it was hilarious because at one point, this guy comes up and is whistling while I'm trying to do an interview. But I had a whistle too. And so I started whistling back. And so me and him, we had a whistle off. It was so funny. It was such good content. Yeah, it was really good. I got to bring a whistle to all of these protests. It makes me fit in. Makes me feel like I'm a part of it. Makes me feel like I'm a part of it all, you know? Hey, Brenosh, again, thank you, GOAT. Total GOAT there. And hey, let's jump in now. Thank you, Asian Mormon and Lockie, for the super chats. Let's jump in now to our call with Ilya. For those who don't know, Ilya and I, we were both on political TikTok at about the same time. On opposite sides of the political spectrum, but we've maintained contact. He did a really good video not too long ago giving kind of a left-wing critique of Dean Withers, his debate style, showing Dean Withers is not very concerned with truly winning on a lot of these issues. It's more this performative social media stuff. I thought it was a very well-done video. I'm a little bit biased. He included a section of a debate that I did with Dean, wherein Dean, it's the same one you guys have seen, where Dean just runs off. Dean just runs off, and the moment that I start pressing him on a constitutional issue, he begins just like saying, oh, didn't you post a racist video? Exactly the thing we were talking about today, by the way, this kind of performative. Do you think Dean Withers cares? No, Dean Withers was saying the N-word playing video games a couple years ago. Okay, Dean Withers doesn't care if people are racist. Let's all stop being so performative. But yeah, let's call Ilya. Like I said, we completely disagree politically, but maybe this is our Greg Hughes and Spencer Cox in the same car. Or no, it was Greg Hughes and who was it? Was it Greg Hughes and Spencer Cox in the same car? I think so. This is our coming together moment where we can chat about issues because we both genuinely care. Maybe he disagrees. Maybe he thinks I'm more performative now, and I don't think he'd be totally wrong. But I'd love the chance to catch up. And he had a couple questions as well, so we'll be responding to some of those and chatting a little bit. We're giving him a ring.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? Can you hear me all right? Oh, hold on.
I can hear you just fine.
Sorry, we just got another super chat in. I realized I gotta figure out the volume here so people can hear you over the
Cat
noise
Bro
of this
Iper
like
sent $15.
Euro
God bless you,
dance
Kai.
that plays every
You continue
time
to
money is
strengthen my
donated.
faith and make me strive
No,
to
you're
be more
good.
Christ-like
I just
daily.
gotta let me
You are an
fix my
excellent
mic
role
real
model
quick.
for young
Yeah,
men
no worries.
across
I'll
America.
deafen.
I'm trying to stop
You
swearing
figure that
because
out
of
real
you.
fast, and
Much
then
love.
I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
Probably in like 3 minutes because you sent a song. So-
Okay, that's fine. That's a perfect amount of
Okay.
time.
Awesome, sweet. All right, BRB. All right. Okay, you guys just think it's the music stream now. Maybe we do like a $50 minimum for song requests on Out of Touch. I like Forrest Frank though. I don't like how all of his songs sound exactly the same, but hey, Christian music, love that. Hey, thank you, Cat Groiper. Dude, I love cats. That's so awesome. That is so awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Cat Groiper. He goes, God bless you, Kai. You continue to strengthen my faith and make me strive to be more Christ-like daily. You're an excellent role model for young men across America. I'm trying to stop swearing because of you. Much love. Hey, dude. Maybe it's because I'm sleepy, but that is heartwarming. It's kind of making me tear up a little bit. Too kind. Genuinely, thank you so much, man. That is maybe the biggest compliment I could ever get. Is that if I can encourage you to be more Christ-like daily, that is a huge compliment. At the end of the day, that's what the show's about. I could try and convince you of every single political idea I have. You guys are still going to disagree with the large degree of it. You'd be wrong because it disagrees with my take. But you can disagree, but you could still, nevertheless, be motivated to become more Christ-like. And if I can be a part of that, that's my mission accomplished. I don't care if I get elected to office, and if I do, my success will not be measured simply in the policy that I create and pass, legislation passed, bills passed, legislation sponsored or co-sponsored. That will not be a measure of my success. The measure of my success will be how many young men are inspired to be more Christ-like, and as well stop swearing. So thank you, Cat Groiper. Seriously, I appreciate that a ton, man. Total goat. I love you, big guy. I love you, big guy. Life is Driving says, Utah media, students protesting furries equals manufactured. Students protesting ICE equals spontaneous and courageous. Dude, that's so real. There were agitators that drove down from Salt Lake City to protest at BYU. Why are you protesting what BYU is doing on its private school campus? This is a private religious institution, and you have these leftist agitators from Salt Lake City drive down. These guys I know, I've seen them. They drive down, they hand out these pamphlets about how Brigham Young was a socialist. I promise you he wasn't. This economic proclamation, this guy Nate, the Mormon Marxist, is handing out. And it was so funny. I go to him, he's like handing out these forged, or these like totally cherry-picked rather, economic proclamations that try and claim that the church is like communist. Listen to any talk by Ezra Taft Benson, Secretary of Agriculture, prophet. But I go to him, I'm like, oh, this is so cool, man. Hey, thanks so much. Do you happen to have the 12th article of faith on you by chance? And he goes, why would I have that? Because it says we believe in obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. So maybe for that. But that was hilarious. And then some guy's like, well, they didn't, the old Mormons, they didn't actually obey the law much. They destroyed a printing press. And you know what I said? That was totally legal. And if you doubt it, go read Dallin H. Oaks' dissertation about the burning of the Nauvoo Expositor, and you'll realize that all of it was legal. Maybe we'll read that tonight after our chat with Ilya, because that's actually a super compelling document. Dallin H. Oaks, the GOAT of all time, and this Tuesday, he'll be speaking at BYU. Oh, man, I hope this guy burns it all down. I hope he goes scorched earth. Anyway, Cat Groiper, thank you so much. We're gonna dive in now to our chat with Ilya. Now that the song's over. Thank you for the song request, though. Appreciate you big time, my friend. All right, Ilya, back with you. What's going on?
Hi. Perfect. Can you hear me? Is my audio quality fine and all of that?
Yeah, for me it sounds great. Chat, how's he sounding? A little too loud, a little too quiet? It looks good monitoring-wise, so.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that there's like no feedback or anything on your end, just so it's not like disruptive.
No, it sounds great. You're clear as day.
Okay. Well, obviously it's been a long time since we spoke, and probably like 5 years.
Yeah, we were actually, I was just reflecting on that today. It is actually, I'll say, it's super funny that what I'm talking about today is, you know, the Trump video where he depicts Michelle and Barack Obama as monkeys. And I was just thinking about kind of when I was mentioning that you and I are kind of these political TikTok contemporaries on different sides of the political spectrum. I thought back to all of the cancellations that happened, and I just remembered that you got canceled one time for saying that Zendaya was unattractive, which was maybe one of the most jester moments of political TikTok.
Oh yeah, I remember that, and I mean I don't really regret how I handled that situation at all. Uh, I think like my politics I've always wanted to have defined by kindness, and
Based.
irrespective of whatever like political substance there was to all that, there's really no reason for me to be commentating on someone's looks to begin with. But
That's pretty based. That's a base take. I agree with that. Although, admittedly, it's a very difficult thing to maintain. But I think that's kind of the way that I try to come at politics, especially in the state of Utah. You know, we were mentioning this earlier. The state of Benny Johnson, he gave a talk yesterday at like this Republican schmoozing event I was at, and he did not gauge his audience well. He did not realize that, you know, the same speech he would give at TPUSA was not going to fly with a bunch of 40 to 70-year-old Latter-day Saint boomers who themselves like are trending away from Trump because Trump is too mean. So yeah, the kindness is a really big thing. And
I've actually he was there in person when I was at Charlie Kirk's event back in 2020, and that's not someone that I ever was too fond of. It's just like corporate conservatism that obviously has always rubbed me the wrong way.
It's a little sloppish, and I'll be honest, the fact that he didn't amend his speech that he gave at all, like it was literally exactly the same kind of speech that he would give if he were at TPUSA. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, look, man, I know you do a lot of speeches, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a politic defined by insincerity, and it's reactive.
Yes,
as I would say, Charlie Kirk was himself. Like there's not anything positive to it. And when I say positive, I don't mean in like a good or bad sense. I mean in the literal. Yeah, exactly. Like it's not a productive thing.
Yep.
So for that reason, that doesn't really come as a surprise to me that it's universalized, that he doesn't change across any context.
Yeah.
I would assume it would probably be like nearly the exact same script that he gave when I saw him in Alpharetta here in Georgia.
I'll be honest. It probably was because he was still talking about the stuff that happened in like 2020, 2021 in the first Trump admin. And that was another thing. It's like, dude, we want to hear about, you know, some of the newer stuff. There's juicy stuff to dive into, but I don't think he really brought up like the issue of deportations, for instance, until it was mentioned in questions. And he kind of kept falling back on, you know, it was almost as if I was hearing the same speech that Trump was giving about, you know, black unemployment back during the first campaign. It's crazy.
And that's honestly what I was aiming to talk about, because obviously the political landscape has changed so much since 2020.
Yeah.
And I think most of that can be attributed to the surgically precise targeting of young males by the Trump campaign in the last election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it really dawned on me. I went to Trump's last rally, which was held here in Georgia the day before the election. And basically the only point of discussion during the rally was immigration.
Yeah.
And I realized that this would be the mandate of the election. And living in Georgia, a state that obviously voted for Biden in 2020, but with the development and the media cycle around cases like Laken Riley specifically, who everyone in Georgia is probably 7 people removed from Laken Riley.
Yeah.
It was very evident to me that the landscape of 2020 made being conservative counterculture for the next wave of adolescents. And for that reason, the Democrats, as they have in the past couple election cycles, ran on a election premise of opposing Trumpism first and foremost, and the American people decided to vote for Trumpism.
Yeah.
And I think that the conservative movement now is at a very weird impasse where people are seeing conservative politics applicatively and the mandate that they supposedly voted for, and are quickly realizing that they don't support it. And especially since it was surrounded by Trumpism as an ism, a conflation with the individual who people seem to hate as soon as he's back in office because of how unoptical he is.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, beyond the theatrical performance politics of it all, because people's opinion of Trump is souring, so people's favorable opinions of conservatism are souring.
Mhm.
What you wish as a conservative for the youth and for the conservative movement, directing which direction you wish it goes in off this high that seems to be crippling right before y'all.
I hope it, and I like that question a lot, because what I think honestly is going to be the biggest Achilles heel of the right wing is that it's too popular. I think with social media trending to become more free speech, and I would maybe push back. I think that Trump and everybody, they understood the power of social media and targeting young men, but I think a lot of it is organic. I think young men in particular, they gravitate to things that are not politically correct, to kind of this more rebellious, more traditional, less empathetic politic. So I think some of that occurs naturally as social media becomes more free speech. But I think the biggest problem the right has right now is that it is too popular to be right wing. And the arguments that we were hearing in 2020 about how, we're banned on social media and we're restricted and, we're these like countercultural warriors, those arguments don't really work anymore. You look at social media, the biggest political content creators, the vast majority of them are right wing. You look at alternative media, and basically the only like alternative media, right? That may as well be a phrase for right wing media. And it really, the justification for its existence is reduced every single day. Like, why do you need a Rumble anymore if YouTube is becoming less strict? And eventually, I think because people are not true believers, because people do not care about political victories or policy, they're going to abandon the right-wing political project as soon as it becomes too popular, and they're going to actually adopt positions that are just, politically incorrect or that are no longer the mainstream ones. So if I were to choose, I know there's a roundabout way of getting to it, but I wanted to kind of contextualize or frame my thinking. If I wanted the right wing, or if I could say where I wanted the right wing to go, I want it to become more intellectual. I think one of the biggest travesties that we've seen from kind of the Trump era of politics is anti-intellectualism. I think the left is super correct in calling that out. And the right now has often been put in a space where you either are just asserting absolute loyalty to Donald Trump, even in issues that he's wrong on. And then you kind of look silly when you have to go and, walk it back a couple months down the line when he changes his position. And take the Epstein files, right, as an example. I saw Michael Knowles, he did a show with Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry, Harry being another one of our contemporaries. And, Michael is saying that, Trump is not obfuscating or he's not impeding the release of the Epstein files because 3.5 million files were released. But I don't think anybody serious hears that and believes it. Everybody knows that Trump was trying his hardest not to get them released. So I hope that we can get back into institutions. I hope that we go back into colleges. We understand that education is valuable. I hope that we become more policy-minded. And I hope to some degree we become more activist. And I've been interacting more with that locally here in the state of Utah with an initiative to repeal Prop 4, Prop 8. No, Prop 4, sorry, which was a redistricting initiative that was passed in 2018. And I realized, right-wing people simply do not have the same propensity for political activism as left-wing kind of psychological types do. And I hope that changes. I hope that we don't maybe do it in the same way, but that we see legitimacy in the idea of politics. Because right now to Republicans, politics itself is a dirty word. And I don't think it should be. I think it should be seen as an art that you can improve on and that you can master. And right now, it's like calling a politician. It's almost as if you're calling him a slur. When in reality, it's what they do. It's what they ought to be doing, and they ought to be better at it. And right now, I just don't see that. We've had concepts of a healthcare plan for almost a decade now, and I'm just sick of that.
Yeah, that's the thing is, to the point that you were making, I do think that male youth is very vigorous and ill-defined by much of anything outside of emotion. So I think, and obviously as a male, that emotion generally is going to present as something that is more in the direction of a propensity for violence than anything else. And for that reason, I think it was very easy for the Trump camp to abstractly advocate for something like mass deportations in a demographic where I don't imagine would it translate onto other demographics in the same way that it did? And now that we're seeing it in play, this almost performative cruelty coming from the White House, where you have like these edits, this
Yeah.
deeply unprofessional culture of edits coming from the White House of like random people being apprehended when 92% of the arrests of ICE are from nonviolent offenders. When someone is scrolling through Twitter and sees like a DHS post of like all these people superimposed being shackled with like some little dark age in the background, and then they vet the video a little bit and they realize that this was just some guy who like paid $5,000 to have the cartel smuggle him across so that he could save up some money and retire his family in Mexico. I think that contributes to an optical disaster that simultaneously I don't view right-wing commentators as critical of in any way, which only leads me to the conclusion that all of this is an act of catharsis and not something concerned with any sort of efficacy. Because I think a lot of the desire for these mass deportations rests on like this psyche of nostalgia and all of that type of stuff, something that people don't really have the capacity to relate their lives to. Like a very white America is something that has always sounded so unfamiliar to me because I'm a modern man, right? First and foremost. And so like people have these nostalgic desires arise in them through their media diet. And then when they see the means to get there and how cruel and brutal it can be, all of a sudden they're disinterested. And for me, it becomes hard to understand what the aim even is. Like you as a conservative who I'm assuming supports mass deportations, right?
Yeah.
What is this idealized America post 100 million deportations look like to you? To what benefit? And what do you think day to day that's arduous for you would change through that actualized goal?
That's an interesting question. If you don't mind, I'd love to respond, and then you may have to remind me of that same question in just a second. But I want to respond to the first point, which I think is I think you're spot on in your analysis. The performative cruelty from the Trump White House, from the DHS posts, like, doing this AI Studio Ghibli depiction of like an old woman being deported. I think that's terrible. I think it, just as a cost-benefit analysis of how much it galvanizes your political opposition versus how much support it gets you, sure, it plays with like a small portion of the base, but it alienates a lot of the voters who are new Trump voters or who have, seen themselves, like have had their vote been more plastic than maybe we imagined initially, and particularly Hispanics in that regard. Yeah. And I think you're 100% right. I don't think that the Trump White House or the admin has actually been very concerned with efficacy. I think the execution of many of the policies that I agree with and that I think you can make a very strong case for has been abysmal. And I think it's gotten us to a point where, it's kind of dead in the water. It's as if, deportations have been poison pilled because of the way that the Trump admin has gone about executing the optics of them. At the end of the day, deportations were never, ever going to be a pretty thing. And I don't think people realize that. To an extent, what I think is the problem is that there's plenty of voters who are not, they don't have a strong enough will in their politics. Like they really are not willing to do things that are very upsetting in order to achieve political victory. And when I say very upsetting, I don't mean, like throwing people in camps and killing them. I mean, deportations themselves are going to be ugly because they involve people who have been in the country for a decent amount of time. Some people who have been here 20 years, right? The guy that ICE was trying to apprehend when they ended up shooting Alex Pretty, this guy had been in the country, I think, 2 decades or more. So by nature of how deportations work, it's never going to be pretty. And I don't think you could look at an arrest. When was the last time you saw somebody getting arrested for anything and they had a good time about it? But just by nature of the issue, it won't ever be a good look. And I think that people do want deportations, but they don't want to see them. And the Trump admin doesn't understand that. And for that reason, they've been so bad at actually, doing anything productive as far as deportations are concerned. And now the public, the polling about Trump, about deportations, it's totally swung the opposite direction. I think he's going to lose the Hispanic vote. And I think honestly, deportations are kind of dead in the water before the midterms. I don't imagine we'll get much good out of that. the question, if I recall correctly, of like, for me, now you rephrase it actually. Remind me of the question that you posed at the end.
Yeah, to that point, knowing the violence that this entails, right? Like categorically.
Yeah.
Like the way you just explained it.
Yep.
What is the aim, the actualized aim there that would be of a benefit to you that you think warrants that? I would assume it would be something along the lines of a new social fabric that's more ideal or something like that. Or like the actualization of a nation state that was robbed from you.
Yeah, I really like that point actually, because you're right that there's maybe this idealized version of America where, you know, you see those edits and it's like, you know, an America of 100 million or whatever, or an America like once they're all deported. And yeah, I think you're right to a large degree that doesn't exist. For me personally, that social fabric, the social cohesion, that plays a part. What I think is clear, and the best case that Republicans can make concerning demographic change, that is tangible, is the fact that it simply does break down American identity to something that eventually just doesn't actually resemble the historical values of the country in maybe not so much kind of these tangible ways. It's not to say that, you know, houses are disappearing or there's no more white picket fences, there's no more columns in front of, you know, on porches, which is the case. And interestingly enough, you know, this precedes even some of the immigration. Robert Putnam's, you know, Bowling Alone, he talks about a lot of the social decline, which predates even some of the recent waves of immigration. But the thing that I see, for instance, and I'm from the state of Utah, where we're not actually receiving a ton of immigration. We're not at least seeing our society shaped so quickly the way that, you know, Texas or Nevada is seeing it shaped. Yeah. But I look at the protests that were had just this week about ICE, and, you know, I look at the high schools and the middle schools, these big walkouts that are happening, and the tangible reality is that there is now a much larger subsect of the population willing to protest American policy in favor of policy that favors either foreign nationals or foreign nations. And I do think that those kind of representative issues are important. And when I talk about, you know, deportations, one of the biggest things is actually the symbolic. It is the idea that a nation, in order to retain its legitimacy, must make good on enforcing its laws. And if the people begin to see that a nation refuses to enforce its laws, it loses credibility in the eyes of its citizenry, and I think becomes less stable. I think in order to be, and this is something I repeat frequently, and I know it's a little bit, you know, these are ideals that I'm talking about. It's not so much the tangible question you were going after, but in order to be a moral country, I do think you need enforcement of laws, and in order to achieve a kind of morality and justice as it concerns immigration, I think the best way to do it is by having truly effective border policy that stops people right when they enter and doesn't allow them to establish a life in the United States and then eventually be kicked out. I think that's actually much more unfair. And of course, because this is happening, because of mass migration, both illegal and legal, the social cohesion in high schools or in middle schools even is totally flipped on its head. These are walkouts now that are school sponsored. These are walkouts that, you know, fly flags of foreign nations. And that is a problem. I think it shows tangibly that the idea of assimilation has disappeared. And I think at every point in American history, assimilatory pressure has been good and necessary. And that's not to say that it hasn't bred negative outcomes. Nativism has certainly made plenty of people uncomfortable. And it was something that was impressed onto my grandparents. But it is something that I think was necessary.
German descent, right?
Yeah, yes. And you know, my grandparents came over at different times, both from Germany. But they faced this assimilatory pressure. And right now, I just think that assimilatory pressure has disappeared. And for instance, you know, this I don't know if you're familiar, there's a law on the books regarding naturalization. It's called the 2065 or 6520 rule, which is if you've resided in the United States for 20 years or more and you are above the age of 65, you don't have to take the citizenship test in English. Admittedly, the subsect of people attempting to be naturalized who, you know, are actually going to care enough to be naturalized in a non-English language is probably really small. But the policy indicates what I observe to be the case, which is that assimilation pressure is decreased. And I think that you cannot retain anything about a country other than maybe its economic policy if the assimilatory pressure is reduced and reduced and reduced.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because I've been reading pretty extensively about the 1920s.
Uh-huh.
And I read this book, America by Baudrillard, largely irrelevant, but it's seeped a lot of ideas into my mind.
What was it called? By Baudrillard? What was it?
America.
Oh, okay, for real.
Yeah. It's just like a diagnosis of how America is kind of like a hyper-real. And the verbiage that I really like that he used is that it's hologramic. And this point that you're bringing up of like assimilation, I don't think like assimilation is something that has any, I won't say any, but largely it's absent of an agent, right? And I was thinking about this the other day because very few of my friends are white, but they are infinitely more American than me. And if we put each other behind a curtain and I was to describe my background and you heard their accents as opposed to mine and all of that, you'd walk away thinking my friends are more American than me because categorically they are.
Well,
like,
where are you from again? Remind me.
Kyrgyzstan.
Okay, that's what I thought. So
I like ethnically like Slavic.
Same here, by the way. Like, this is what I say. I'm talking about this, but admittedly, there are plenty of people who are much more American in an inheritance sense than I am because my family's immigrated more recently to the United States.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I can't really conflate Americanism with WASPism in like good faith because I think that was the genesis of the American experiment. One of the foremost experts on Jefferson once said that the American Revolution wasn't as much a revolution as it was an insurrection that just changed the hands of the governing body of England and the United States. Like these were colonial stock, quote unquote, right? And what quickly the dilemma that was arrived at is the fact that this was not a nation state, but this was two nation states in complete contradiction with one another over the direction that they wanted to take the future of the nation. The antebellum South and the North were different in cultural heritage, in economic modes of production, and day-to-day affairs to a point where it blew up entirely.
Yeah.
And the project of America as a nation state, I would say, was teleologically abandoned with the ratification of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, and that was a transition into ideology. Because think about a white individual in the 1860s, just in passing thinking of the consequence of the 13th Amendment. Black people were always the other of America, right? And this was a codification, the most other. Like it was intrinsic that these are not people and they can't be, right? For the necessity of the American experiment, a nation of a tradition of a particular people, you can't have your other, you can't have your property become people. And with the ratification of that under the pretense that it would end a war, but later with the 14th and 15th Amendments being ratified under ideological grounds, there was this new genesis to America that candidly, for about 60 years, people were in great conflict with, which is why the nativist movements eventually ended up arising in the way that they did. But I think the only reason that had any success in codification was like economic opportunism. And we could get into that if you want. But by the ratification, by the Warren Court, I should say, it was clear that the law of the land over and over was becoming, there is an ideology of America that is rescinding the nation state project. And there is a nostalgia for the nation state project in the nativists, in the lost cause defenders, in the WASPs of the North, like even the WASP, like Anglophile presidents like Wilson. And it was a battle for 6 decades that was lost over and over and over again until in the neoliberal era with like Reagan and other presidents, bipartisanly, the understanding was the telos was arrived at. That's why mass amnesty was granted. That's why all of these policies went into implementation. And that's why I keep saying that there's this nostalgia for an America that I fundamentally can't relate to.
Yeah.
Because it is not a historical wrong to say that America was a nation state. It fought hard to be a nation state.
Mhm.
But I can't in good faith say that that is what America had arrived at.
I actually I don't totally disagree with that. I think there's what we pick up on, and this was interesting as I was doing my research into the 14th Amendment citizenship clause. The way that you like to be able to read the debate that was held in the Congress, it provides super valuable insight into like what the mindset of the people at the time was at. And while I think you're right that back in the day, the divisions existed, there was not this clear like. While it is true that in hindsight we say, hey, look, the origin of the nation was waspish. The state charters and everything. These were kind of these very unique identities in every single colony and then in every single state or territory. While I think all of that is true, the reason that it's so different now, the reason we have this nostalgic idea of the United States, is because we have hindsight, which is 2020. We look at the things that they were bickering about back then, and we look at the things that we are bickering about now, and we realize that if we had the knowledge we have now about what the nation would become and how different it would be from its founding, we would go back there and we would say all of these conflicts that we are engaged in, whether it's Catholics versus Protestants, or other, and even to some degree, the issue of slavery, I think we would go back in time and we would say, hey, look, none of this is really that relevant. These, ethnic divisions will shift, these religious divisions will shift, and they will become divisions of greater magnitude. I don't disagree that divisions have always existed, and I think you're right to some extent to say that, maybe there was never this unified, nostalgic America. But seeing what we see now, we can look back and say that this could have been avoided at several different steps. During the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause debate, the ratification debate, right? The senator from California, Conness, I believe, I think it was California or Pennsylvania. He describing Asian immigration, and I think it was California because they were receiving a lot of the Asian immigrants.
In that case, California.
Yeah, and it was funny that the senator from Pennsylvania, or the representative from Pennsylvania, he actually brings up, I think it was the gypsies, is who he was really concerned about, and nobody else in the Congress related to that. Everybody else was like, that's kind of a ridiculous thing. That's never going to be a problem for the nation as a whole. Anyway, the way that this representative from California describes the issue of immigration from China is super weird. It's in a way that we would never imagine here, which is that the number of Asian immigrants would stay relatively the same because either alive or dead, their bones would return to China, and there would be a constant replacement of the populace of Asian immigrants in the United States through emigration and immigration.
Yeah,
that idea that they had, this supposition, just proved to be false. And as time went on, they realized that, and 10 years later, right, or 14 years later, you have the Chinese Exclusion Act, which is extended 10 years and then is written into law 10 years later. And you've got, President Teddy Roosevelt, who applies very strict naturalization policies concerning the fact that people were not even able to be naturalized unless they were white and English speaking, which is super restrictive. And this is even in the turn of the 20th century. So this is probably the difference in our analytical framework, but I think you're right to point out the fact that a lot of what conservatives describe never existed, but a lot of the ideas were present. They were present, and what we want is we want an American nation that takes all of those ideas and begins to, identify itself around them rather than dividing itself among the ethnic quarrels or the religious quarrels that existed at that time, because we now in the present realize that those issues are not a big deal at all.
And that is a point of political coherence. Like, that makes sense as a heuristic to have that. That's like a universalizable standard. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I take issue with in that is there is a capacity for different courses of history. Mm-hmm. And this is a lesson that I think anyone would learn in the reading of the 14th Amendment, and how the interpretation for a lot of people who were ratifying it was drawn from English common law, which in and of itself was racialized. And that's, I think, a point that Dean missed in the debate with you that I was pointing out. And with any given issue like that, there's kind of a fork in the road where people know that this could either arrive at this or this could arrive at this. And I'm ratifying this with the hopes that the politics presents as the left side of the fork, as in which you're describing right now.
Yeah.
But there are instances in American history, because this is a person, like the qualms you're having concurrently are the qualms that someone could be having in the 1920s with verbatim the same script, where it's like that person in the 20s could go back 50 years and be like, listen, they could find themselves at Appomattox Courthouse and be like, we have way bigger fish to fry. We're all of Anglo blood here. And in not even 50 years, there will be Italian apes flooding the streets of Manhattan.
A swarthy race, as Benjamin
who
Franklin
will
said.
refuse to assimilate. Half of them under 25 will not be speaking English. And they will be bringing an uptick of crime categorically, right? Like mafia, all this stuff. And to that point, there are those presentations, but there are these really lucid moments in American history where I don't think anyone in good faith could argue that there was a capacity for anything other than the America that we have arrived at in the ratification of certain provisions. And what I'm specifically referencing is the 13th Amendment, because the 13th Amendment necessarily rescinded the nation state project. Whatever you can say about quota systems being implemented later on, like in the late 20s, where they're like, we have 41 million people of colonial stock and then 40 million of other European heritage. So we're going to implement a quota system where we ban East Asian immigration outright and make a percentage of population for the rest of Europe, right? Yeah. Whatever can be said about that, it is irreconcilable. Pendleton knew, you can read all of his arguments. It is irreconcilable to say that there was anything other than a capacity of a rescission of the nation state with the ratification of the 13th Amendment, because that necessarily meant that the second-class citizens of the United States would be elevated to the position of personhood and citizenship. And to draw a parallel, just so, like, I don't know if I just disappeared or if you could still hear me.
No. Yeah, you're still here.
To draw a conclusion, a conclusionary parallel. The Israeli project is that of a nation state, right? Like, this is a disenfranchised people who invented a language, who invented like shared cultural customs, and all migrated to an area where they have a subordinate population, right? And in order for that nation state to prevail, that population necessarily has to be subordinated, right?
Yeah.
Because it is the nation of Jews.
Yep.
The 13th Amendment would be categorically 1-to-1 of the Israeli nation state right now being like, all Palestinians have equal personhood, right?
Yeah.
Like, even in Gaza.
Yep.
And immediately, that's a new telos for the nation. There is no longer an Israel. And everyone who ratifies that knows that that's going to be the telos of the nation. And the ratification of the 13th Amendment was the only one of those amendments, 13th, 14th, 15th, that was done bipartisanly. Many war Democrats joined hands with the Republicans. So that's why I say that there was this new birth. I think the Israeli question is the way to make like a perfect sense of that, because it sounds so outlandish. Like, only 10, 15 years before the ratification of the 13th Amendment, there was the Nat Turner Rebellion, like close to an October 7th. Imagine 10 years from now, Israel were to be like, all right, let's grant all these Palestinians personhood and make them citizens. That's not the same nation anymore.
Yeah.
And so that to me is why this America, which we want to achieve, I'm saying this as conservatives.
Yeah.
In an actualized aim, is a betrayal of its historical purpose and the direction that it moved in. But I understand if your position is that of a pre-Civil War America and a continuation of that project.
I would say that that's not my perspective. I think that I do agree that the sin of slavery is something that the United States could not It's like, you know, the head of an axe buried in a tree, and the tree grows around the axe, but the axe is like this. It is this spine, this thorn, you know, that is always going to create a weakness, especially to the claim of this of the country being a just nation, right? And you look at this.
Yeah.
This is something that happens all across the world, even earlier, right? In the age of empires, where the French or the English begin considering the moral ramifications, or the Spanish with the colonization of the Americas. You know, these letters being written to Ferdinand that say, hey, here are the religious quarrels with the issue of colonization. You are not going to be able to retain legitimacy either as a nation or as a moral leader while these sins continue to exist. So I think it was an inevitability that the question of slavery had to be addressed. And I'm not against the abolition of slavery. I will say that, you know, maybe I agree with you that after that point, there is a version of the American nation that has to exist. I would add a caveat, which is that there were efforts made to repatriate and to absolve the sin of slavery by basically sending Black Americans back to Africa, to their ancestral continent. And that didn't really play out, but it at least communicates that one of the very real considerations by heads of state even.
Lincoln floated that idea around with the Liberian Project.
Yeah, Lincoln, Wilson, or not Wilson. Who am I thinking of before Wilson? Anyway, these are ideas that existed very presently, and ideas as well that were not totally opposed by Black Americans. Nowadays, you have a different thing, which is you've got the foundational Black Americans who are like, hey, you know, we are really the foundational American stock. And as much as maybe I disagree with some of the claims that they are as largely or that they make up such a large part of the original American you know, growth, I may disagree with them on some of those claims. I think they certainly have a claim to being original Americans.
Yeah, there is no qualifier for them other than American.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, they are more American than I am. And to the extent that people say that, you know, Black people aren't American, what they're really alluding to are, you know, certain maybe, you know, more waspish characteristics that maybe they would prefer America had. So I think it's probably more productive just to say, instead of saying they're less American, we just say they're probably, you know, less socially assimilated in the direction we would prefer. But I'll kind of push back and say the position of conservatism, like in a Burkean sense, is not even necessarily completely opposed to all change, but it is the support actually of all of these checks and balances, the pressure to assimilate, the suspicion of, yes, even Italians, that is necessary for a country to not implode. I think the issues that you raised, saying that my arguments could be reasonably applied at every stage of American progression, you're right about that. But I would say that if they weren't applied at every stage, if there were not nativists at every stage of the American project, I don't think we would have a nation. I think you always need people saying, hey, these Italians are like really up to no good. We need them to assimilate. These Irish, you know, are really causing trouble. Irish need not apply. I think in an absence of that, the nation breaks up into the kind of city-states that you see in Europe. I think you see more and more fracturing, and that is like, this is the classical conservative position, is to say, hey, we need, before we entertain any kind of radical social change, we need to understand exactly what it is that we most like about what is happening now. And we cannot, you know, simply adopt these radical measures overnight. And I would even say, I would extend that, by the way, to the abolition of slavery, which is not something that occurs overnight. There is a fight up until, you know, like you were mentioning, the Warren Court, of an extension of civil liberties and a true implementation of the rights and the protections of the 13th Amendment and others ratified later on, which are, you know, being stalled at every step of the process. I think that is actually something that is necessary. And while I'm not here to defend, you know, the segregation or mistreatment of Black Americans in the country historically, I think if there had been radical change, if there had been this immediate progression into a total, inclusion in like a perfect equilibrium between white and black Americans, I don't think the country, would have come out better for it. And I think many of the plights actually that we see in the black, in black culture today, whether it be the high rates of single mothers, or whether it be high rates of violence, I think a lot of these things are consequences of more radical integration without the necessary checks of nativism, or simply of suspicion of change. I think suspicion of change, hesitancy to it, is absolutely necessary for the nation to continue existing. And I guess if I could throw you back a question, it would be, well, what do you think is the way forward for America? Do you think that kind of suspicion has always been negative? Where do you see the American nation going? What do you see it turning into? And do you think that was kind of inevitable from the start?
Yeah, that's a good question. And obviously, to the point that I was kind of referencing earlier, I think there was kind of like a new telos to America, that not of a nation state, but rather of an ideological project. And I think I see hints of it in the early stages of American history, because this verbiage of America being hologrammic, there were always pockets of America that were the presence of WASP domination were hiccups rather than their defining factor. Like the first white settlers in California, the Californios, their process of assimilation was into marrying Catholic families, part of the Californian mission, and kind of acquiescing to the Spanish colonial culture, things along those lines. But beyond that historical context, the way I kind of envision America is a coalescence of many different nation states. The one that I happen to be in, a southern one, is that of like a dialectic between white and black America, first and foremost. Because, I mean, when I think of Southern culture, I think of Southern Gothic literature, right? This is a heavily dominated, like, feminine field. Carson McCullers, Flannery O'Connor, individuals like this. Like, these are the pioneers. They're not WASPs. They're women also. And then the music, the literary contributions, the musical contributions, like the Delta blues and everything that arose from that in terms of rock and roll and all that, that was a contribution first and foremost of Black Americans. But to the question of what is the America I want to see, it is hard for me to engage in prescriptive politics, because so much of prescriptive politics in terms of cultural positioning. Yeah. Because so much of politics is contingent upon economic modes of structure. And I think that's the most defining part of the American project, is that it's arrived in this new telos. Because like America, first and foremost, is this liberal capitalist project. I feel like it's arrived at its punctual point where it's going to implode, not because of cultural incongruences. Like, that's not my existential fear. For me, it's because of this accumulation of wealth in a gluttonous hoarding that has completely priced out the individual out of the abundance that they were promised in having in America, right? In partaking in the American project. And that is where all of my desire for change is directed toward. Like, more than anything, I wish people were more involved, not in national politics, but in their day-to-day labor and things like that. So when it comes to the issue of immigration, I've always kind of just lukewarmly looked at it in this way, where it's almost, it has the capacity for self-regulation in terms of opportunity cost, because I've worked with undocumented people my whole life, and the caricature of them presented to me has always been so incongruent with what I know them to be. Yeah. And further, anytime anyone, like, even if I viewed it as this great, great travesty and like harm upon the social fabric, anytime a politician is running on that first and foremost, it strikes me as opportunism. Like, even if if this was completely correct, I still wouldn't be voting for Trump, because I don't trust the guy to enact any of this will, Can I add something to that? Yeah.
I think that's actually a very good observation. One of my big questions, right, is like, why is ICE in Minnesota? That is one
Yeah,
of my
because
biggest things.
it's
like,
not proportionate to where the
yeah,
illegal immigration pockets in the United States are.
exactly. I think it's one of the most perfect examples of the poor executive ability of the Trump admin. Is you have kind of this radical questioning of foreign populations, particularly of Somalis, because of the Nick Shirley video, but fraud being
Yeah.
committed by refugees and even naturalized American citizens is totally different than like the labor effects and maybe the socio-cultural effects of illegal immigrants on the nation, which you're right is not happening in Minnesota. These are totally different issues. And I thought that was a terrible way of going hard on immigration policy by sending ICE into places where there really isn't a proportional, population of illegal immigrants like that, or immigrants.
And there is in Georgia, and we don't have anything like that
Exactly.
here because people don't want to see that politic play out in their state.
Yeah.
And this is a place that voted for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a known optical disaster to send these guys who are erratic, who act like big, dumb, wild animals when they're provoked, who are undertrained. People don't want to be on the receiving end of that. Even just in viewership. Like, you don't want to see that on the street, even if you support it.
Yes.
Because people are abstracted from their political desires,
Yes.
where they want to keep it as an other.
And this is where I think, and maybe we'll just disagree, because I imagine you're against deportations generally. I may be wrong there, but is that kind of your take?
Generally, especially in the case of someone who's like done a very heinous crime, like I think about Jose Ibarra, right? And the murder of Laken Riley.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining like, okay, like there's a world where we send this guy to CCOT or whatever, right? And then 5 years from now, where people realize that the El Salvadoran president is like inflating his crackdown numbers and people become disenfranchised with him, he's toppled or something. What's stopping that guy from escaping prison? I would rather see him die in an American prison.
That's an interesting take. It's it's one of these that I kind of actually go back and forth on, because you're right. If you've committed a crime against an American citizen, the American justice system is going to be much harsher than a foreign one. Even in El Salvador, obviously there the prisons are pretty serious, but I think you're right that I will say, I don't know, from everything I've seen, there is a significant drop in violent crime in El Salvador. Maybe it is being disproportionately, or maybe it's being represented in an inflated way.
I could send you some articles on it. There was for about 2 years, but then the problem resurged and they just stopped reporting on it.
I'd be very interested to read that. So please send that over. What I'll say though is, I kind of go back and forth on that. My big thing though is like, I genuinely do believe that the United States has to go through with deportations for some of the reasons that I mentioned before. And I think that I believe in, a function of government that is not directly democratic, and that says, look, I believe in representative democracy in the sense that we elect representatives who we think are going to be of a higher, they will be more intelligent, or at least more effective in their position as politicians than the average citizen would be. And so the average citizen is electing an individual to represent them, not directly, but rather because this individual is going to be far better in that, position of power. So I'm even, somebody who's maybe deferential. Like I'll say, hey, I may not even agree with this elected official, but I will defer to their ability to govern, because that's how I believe a government should work, maybe in a more aristocratic fashion. And so I think it is the job, it is the responsibility of our governors, of the people who govern us, to say, hey, look, I understand the population is seeing this now and it's ugly, but I also understand that they at one point willed this, that the case was made, it was a good case, and it is in the United States' legitimate, interest to go through with deportations, and whether or not it's ugly, we have to do it. I think that it is the responsibility of the officials that we have in this country to execute in that regard. And this is, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. I simply think that we should not be whipped around actually by people who don't have the political willpower to do things that, truly will save the country because they're ugly. And I think Utah's a perfect example. In Utah, we have begun to, and this is something I can speak to more directly because Utah is maybe one of these, nation states that you're discussing at the beginning that is totally different than all of the other cities, or rather all the other states in the country, because it has a specific religious demographic core.
Yeah.
Because this religious demographic is particularly prone to kindness, to niceness in its politics, I think we make a lot of sacrifices we don't need to make, and I think it's been in our detriment as a state, or it's been to our detriment. And I am trying to fight against that. I want to be able to say, hey, look, we need politicians with the will to even do things that are unpopular as they come out, but that are going to improve the country. Maybe to make an appeal to the current political situation, I think that, Thomas Massie being in favor of the release of the Epstein files, or Lauren Boebert or whoever, even if the president is saying, hey, stop doing this, I think that is a cause worth taking up. Fighting for those issues, even when a Republican voter disagrees with it. And so this is where I come at it from. And that's why the question to you about kind of what do you want to see the country become? I liked your answer regarding the economics. And I think an important part of the argument about immigration is the economic argument. I'd be interested to hear kind of what your take is regarding H-1Bs and kind of the permanent underclass. And maybe you disagree with that characterization, but I see illegal immigration to be kind of very useful for major corporations and businesses in the United States. And I think it is by nature, predatory. And that's a huge part of why Donald Trump and Stephen Miller, when they talk about immigration, they make tons of concessions regarding H-2A visas, regarding not going into hospitality or agricultural industries. And I think it actually, it shows their true motives, which are in many cases economic. I think that's a very good observation.
Yeah, I think I've looked at so much data, and anyone who prescribes anything universally about the consequences of illegal immigration, whether it be positive or negative, is overstepping the bounds of what they can say definitively, prescriptively, right? Mm-hmm. And it all rests upon methodology. And this is something that I brought up in my debate with Dean, where he was like, you can't just black and white say that illegal immigrants either cost more or they don't. And one study that I had brought up, because in that debate, obviously, I was steel manning from the conservative position, quote unquote. The study that I had brought up was done by the Center for Immigration Studies, right? And so when the Cato Institute does an analysis upon the burden of an illegal immigrant, they factor them in as an individual.
Yeah.
And so it's a net positive. When the Center for Immigration Studies does it, they'll include their children, right? And then they'll include the taxpayer burden of said child in their formative years and the fact that they have to go through public schooling, which costs X amount of dollars per pupil, and then translated to the living wage that the illegal immigrant earns. There's a discrepancy, which makes it a net negative or whatever, right? And then there's a million other things that are just not as quantifiable, like productive output and the bearing that has on prices, right? Like if an illegal immigrant is laboring at twice the pace that an American is, which in my experience, when I watch these guys work, is typically the case, because they're working for a lot higher of a dollar amount in their mind in terms of purchasing power, because they're going to take that back to their home country through Western Union, more than likely.
Yes.
And retire themselves within 20 years. And so the fact that they're able to wash X amount of dishes, flip that many tables, produce that much more for a restaurant, or produce that much more for a grocery store, and then that reduces the prices. There's this whole level of regression analysis that we're not able to do. And for that reason, I think it's better to turn our attention to that which we can definitively pinpoint as a consequence of the theories embedded in capitalism, one of which being how pricing produces a tendency for the rate of profit to fall, which necessarily translates into a restructuring of the economic distribution of labor as a factor in pricing, which means your wage will forever continually fall. especially compared to like inflation. Like it's a categorical truth of the system. And so like all of these things I think are better pointed to be alleviated. And in like the psyche of economics as a proprietary concern, I don't think illegal immigration would touch top 100 concerns of mine, because I view it as the most obfuscatory part of the conversation that you could partake in, if that's a word. And you asked me about H-1Bs, which is funny because I'm an H-1B baby. Like my mom came here.
Really?
H-1Bs. Yeah.
Let's go.
And so obviously I'm pro that. I kind of like being in America.
Hey, same here. I'm a marriage child, so.
Yeah. And so like, at least I don't know. I don't know if I'm just like, I don't know what I can trust online if they've laxed the standards, but I can speak for 2008, 2009. And I know that it was a rigorous process of like vetting for months and months and months on end to make sure that there was no American to fill this position.
Yeah.
And in that case, there earnestly wasn't. I mean, like they delayed my mom's hiring time and time again to just make sure that there was no opportunity for someone else.
Yeah.
To fill that vacancy.
Yeah.
I can't speak to how it's going on now. I mean, obviously people can utilize foreign markets, and it happens in capitalism. And immigration has like winners and losers, and I'm sure that there have been people priced out of like a living wage in Alabama, right? Like in the agricultural field or something.
Yeah.
Like that would come as no surprise to me if someone said that. But simultaneously, there are benefits to the average American. And beyond that, I think the greater agent of chaos in that case is the businessman who's exploiting that.
Yeah. No,
rather
dude,
than the
100%.
But who we impart the violence on for the transgression ends up being the immigrant, right?
Yes.
Because like coming here on an I-589, like crossing through a CBP checkpoint, declaring for asylum, and then working in the meantime, that is a legal process, but you are simultaneously an illegal.
Yes.
And so much of all of this is in legal limbo.
Yep.
Like Stephen Miller says, I as a Texan have not consented to being governed by like an appellate court in San Francisco. Yeah. Which, I mean, yes and no. Like I can be sympathetic to the position. And like simultaneously, someone in Minnesota is like, I did not vote for this. Like I voted in my state election.
Yeah.
I didn't vote for some Texan to send the National Guard here to mobilize in response to an investigation that's been settled. Like everyone in that Somalian fraud thing has been prosecuted by the Democrats.
Yeah.
So I think the transgression, the people on the receiving end of the violence that we impart for the transgression is completely misdirected. And I think that's an extension of the media diet that people consume, where it points them to that individual.
I actually 100% agree with you here. This is one of the biggest issues that I have right now. And this is, what I want to do in Utah and what I want to do politically generally. There's so much of our politics where we direct our energy to things that truly don't matter, or we direct it in ways that are just simply disingenuous. And it gets to the point, this is the thing, right, with, the case, right, of the shooting of Renee Good or of Alex Preddy, where Kristi Noem will just straight up say something that is incorrect. And the way that our politics has formed now, there is a significant subsect of the Republican base who is more concerned about being MAGA always than they are about supporting the correct stance. Yeah. And so they'll say Kristi Noem was right. And it's like she literally just was not. And I don't think it's healthy to create a dichotomy between people who are recognizing the reality of a situation and people who are willing to literally just defend a party at all costs. Don't get me wrong. I think there is seriously important political capital in loyalty as a governing virtue, but I also think it exposes you to an eventual inevitable destruction, because you will become people who simply cannot associate themselves or their political positions with reality. And that's a
Yeah.
problem. I don't think it's sustainable. I think if that continues, if the kind of stances about, the Epstein files or the shooting of Alex Pretty, if all of that continues, I don't think the current kind of populist Republican project is sustainable, for the same reasons that I don't think the anti-intellectualism is sustainable, is because it does not create solutions. It is purely reactionary. It is never constructive. That, I think, is the big problem here. I feel like there was something else I was going to say about what you're discussing. Oh, yeah. I would, for this reason, very rarely do I impugn the motives of immigrants themselves. I don't think, again, that is where, the harm is. Certainly, there's a subsect of them who, do come to the country for maybe, less than noble purposes. There is trafficking that occurs closer to the southern border. There's plenty of this kind of stuff that happens, that has happened forever, but they realize the United States presents the largest net improvement to their lives. They could, seek asylum in Mexico. If they're coming from, more Central or South American nations, they should be seeking asylum in different countries, right? Countries that they cross in order to get to the United States. They don't do so because the net improvement in the United States is far superior or far greater than the net improvement they would feel in, Colombia or Bolivia or wherever it is that they cross to in order to eventually get to the United States. But I think that for that reason, the best way to talk about it, and what I try to do talking about conservative politics, is simply say, hey, look, we don't think these people are evil, but we also don't believe that it is our responsibility to take them in. I think we have every right to say, no, this is going to cause economic stresses or cultural stresses that we do not want to incur, that we prefer not to have, shape America in some ways, either economically, culturally, or electorally. And I think that's a very legitimate claim. The problem is that instead of saying that, we have said, and I'm a little black-pilled about it, because you're right, this is part of just how politics is always done. You have to create an other. You have to create an enemy. And it's very easy to create enemies out of every immigrant when you have cases like the killing of Lake and Riley. But I don't think it creates constructive policy. And at the end of the day, I'm worried about that. I am worried about what policy can get passed. How could it improve the country? And there will always be a subsect of Republican politics that says, hey, look, I understand, the Biden administration has come up with a border policy, but we'd much rather let this thing get worse so that we have better electoral outcomes in the next election cycle.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously, you've alluded to this, but that hope, which obviously in and of itself is one that I'm opposed to, but beyond that, that hope is completely in conflict with the way that the administrative arm has been conducting itself.
Yeah.
To any degree.
Yep.
And so it's just like really hard to make that case for people, because I think a lot of people, like let's take, for example, temporary protected status, right?
Yep.
This is a thing that maybe you can, maybe you can't cancel overnight, right? Like such an unprecedented move by the Trump administration that it has to be legally vetted to its full extent. And so when it was done with Venezuelans, more than likely it will not pass the facially legitimate and bona fide test of the Supreme Court of the United States. But for the time being, in line with a policy of judicial digression, the Supreme Court said to the lower appellate court, which challenged it, you have to listen to this. This is the law of the land until we litigate this as the Supreme Court, right? Yeah. But they said this is specifically for Venezuelans. Like our ruling is specifically for the provision on Venezuelans. Now, when it happens with the Burmese and the Nepalese, they don't give that same injunction, the Supreme Court. Why? Well, that's for anyone to try to figure out.
Yeah.
And so imagine you're like a Haitian in Springfield or something, or like a Somalian in like, I don't know, Minnesota. And you know that your position in this country is ill-defined. Like you're not breaking a law.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like you've done the legal process, the I-589 form, and then overnight this law changes, but at the same time you don't know if it's really changed at all. And that's enough for an intense amount of violence to be imparted on you. It's like you're building this life right now, but you can be stripped of it, even though technically it hasn't been codified whether or not you've transgressed in any way or breached any policy.
Yeah.
And I think the distaste really arises in the fact it's twofold. One, it's the fact that all of this is so ill-defined, but the action is so concrete and erratic.
Yeah.
And it's unpointed because it doesn't have a high efficacy.
It's based just on like the need to act. It's just pure action. This is what people get off on. Yeah.
Like simultaneously deploying Operation Metro Surge and then firing like immigration judges who have who have like a 86% deportation rate because that's too high. Like in San Francisco. Like people perceive that as deeply unserious, especially when it comes from the hands of an individual who's lying about the circumstances of cases that you can see before your eyes. Yeah. Like, no one thinks a soccer mom is a domestic terrorist. That's really hard framing to sell. Yeah. Even if for some reason there's a demographic that finds the good shooting to be justified. Even those people, it's hard to sell them on the fact that that's a domestic terrorist. Yes. And simultaneously to be like, let's invoke the Insurrection Act when this is a guy who people have known to be party to political violence and forgiving of it if it suited his aim in the past. Like, that's where the distrust arises, and that's why the support for this is waning.
Can I ask you on that?
She don't care. She don't care if I talk to other chicks.
Sorry.
She knows.
My bad. I just got audio popped up on my computer just out of nowhere. Question on that. The issue of the Insurrection Act, it's really cool to me the fact that you look into this stuff legally. And I remember the short conversation that you and I had where, concerning the 14th Amendment, and I think you said the Heritage Foundation, right? Like the writing that they do on this in constitutional interpretation, it is really fascinating. And to some extent, I've gotten to that point where I say, at the end of the day, the conversation like with Dean, it is not so much about constitutional precedent. It's more so about whether it's good. At the end of the day, we all become our own Supreme Court justices. I admit that because, the last 100+ years of U.S. history, the constitutional precedent sides against me. And, just as much as I'm willing to cite the judges in 1884 or what was the year, 1868 of the 14th Amendment? Just as much as I'm willing to cite them, Dean is totally legitimate in signing back the next 100 years. And all I have to say is I just think it was poorly, decided.
Yeah. For every row, there's a Dobbs.
Yes, exactly. And so this is, interesting, but analyzing when we did a whole stream kind of jumping into the Insurrection Act claims, I think it was
I'm ill acquainted with. By the way. I haven't read that lettering of that law whatsoever. That
was one thing that even fascinated me. I read it. The standard is actually super,
low.
You could apply it super liberally. Yeah. All it is, and admittedly, the way it's been enforced in the past, it was enforced in California most recently during
with Clinton, right?
Was it? Yeah, I think so.
I think during the LA riots.
Yes, it was during the LA riots. That's when it was implemented. Prior to that, it was used invoked for the integration of schools during the Eisenhower administration with Little Rock. And so the use of it has typically been in pretty liberal ways. Of course, the LA riots is more akin to what we're seeing in Minneapolis. But you look at the standard and it mentions literally it's basically like the illegality of impeding, obstructing, or in any way coming in conflict with the enforcement of law by law enforcement officers. It's basically the same language. And because immigration law is federal law, I think there's a super easy case to make for the Insurrection Act. And I was surprised by it because, maybe it's more than anything just the word insurrection is so rhetorically charged that when I look at the language and I see it so liberally defined, I'm like, wow, I think Trump actually has a good case. I don't think it would be politically effective. The most effective thing is actually what's being done right now, which is working with the local law enforcement to arrest people who are protesting in ways that are illegal. I think that is what should have been done from the very beginning. Unfortunately, the Republican response was basically just like, hey, what the heck, guys? I'm like, why aren't you doing your jobs? Rather than investigate it, rather than, and I suppose the Insurrection Act would have compelled, law enforcement. It would have federalized the National Guard to actually do and enforce the immigration law or arrest the protesters. That was the point of it. I think all of that was unnecessary, and I don't know, the rhetorical framing of all of it, the rhetorical framing of almost every issue during this admin has been so much more inflammatory than it needs to be. But then I also look at the border issues, and I say, hey, border policy, being stricter on border policy This is something that was totally acceptable in the early 2000s. And while, yes, I know that, what's his name, Obama was not the deporter in chief the way that Republicans make him out to be, which doesn't even make sense because, okay, so Obama was based? Is that what we're saying now?
Apprehensions.
Exactly. It's at the border apprehensions. But, even understanding that, there was bipartisan support for like improvement on border security. The issue is Trump gets into office and it becomes a partisan issue. Partly because Trump is just rhetorically framing it.
I think it's the optics.
Yes, exactly. It's the optics, right? Trump is framing it as a partisan issue. But then you have, the same people who voted for border enforcement, a decade prior in the exact same Congress, or rather the exact same, representatives who were voting in favor of border fencing. They come out against it because of the optics. And that's the whole thing that I'm trying, you and I, we probably agree most on this point, is that so much of what we do politically is shaped by optics rather than by, efficacy. I love that word that you keep using. I use the same one. It's like, it's just not efficacious. We are not concerned with what is going to truly produce good results. We're concerned more than anything with the optics.
I mean, I so often see, and it infuriates me, I see like liberals be like, guys, the issue is not with ICE, it's with the way Trump uses it. And it's like, okay, you don't have a backbone. Like, you are a very malleable and naive person. And like, but I do think for most people that's the case, because with Trump's utilization of ICE and the campaign that he ran on, it has a racialized undertone. This imagery I'll never get out of my head. When I went to his final rally, before all those speeches happened, and Stephen Miller was a guest speaker, Marco Rubio was there, so they had the whole coalition. But before all the speeches were given, there were like these billboards around everywhere, and it was like a picture of just like Muslims and like Pakistan like burning like, I don't know, a shirt or something. And like all of the captions were like, "Your neighbors under Kamala Harris."
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's where you have lost people optically. And obviously a leftist sees that and they're like, thank God, like people are finally like it's almost vindicative, where it's like people are seeing this for what it actually is. But of course, liberals and conservatives, at least especially in terms of like the establishment, this is not a real point of disagreement between the two. Like, sure, maybe the way it presented a bit, but I mean, Biden had a Title 42.
Yeah, and he like increased the funding of CBP like a ton. Like the funding increases under Biden were huge up until the last, until the big beautiful bill increased it like by $1 billion.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, what they really just desire from a leader is this image of passivity. No one wants to think that the president is just like some erratic, on-edge individual who doesn't have his composure and acts with rash emotion. And if that is how you present, like, I should say if you don't present like that is what I'm meaning to say.
Yeah.
You can get away with so much. One of my favorite presidents of all time is Lincoln. And he suspended habeas corpus. He bombed Manhattan. Like he bombed protesters. And the Emancipation Proclamation was almost surely unconstitutional. And he just did it anyway. And like even the ratification of these amendments, obviously the Confederacy was not privy to it at all.
Yeah.
But it was something that was applied to them legally.
Yeah.
So all of these measures that I think were correct, like all these measures that were taken, a lot of them were categorically not the legal measure.
Yeah.
Like he just didn't have the capacity to do it. And with a president like Obama, there's a lot of very horrifying policy that he advanced, especially internationally.
Yeah, the drone strikes and everything extrajudicial.
Yeah.
It's like, it was crazy.
But he has like a sort of decency politics to him.
Yes.
And the implosion with the Trump administration is obviously like people just don't trust this guy with the Insurrection Act. And I'm sure that if he were to invoke it, it would be upheld legally, especially by the Supreme Court. But the protests are growing so rapidly and rampantly because of how disastrous the presentation of it all is. And especially like, I feel like I'm not a maladapted guy, but when I see someone just get shot in the face, and then like immediately after, you know, everyone is lying about it and then
Yeah.
villainizing that person. As a sensuous, like factitious being, my first thoughts are like, these people must be hung, you know?
Mhm.
Like that's where your mind runs to.
Which is,
Eh,
admittedly, that's, this is exactly what, in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk, it's the exact same thing. Like this guy
Yeah, like
that
there's
jumps
this
up after he's shot.
mandated
Yeah,
veneration. Yeah.
precisely.
Yeah, like there's all this emotion wrapped up in all of it
Mhm.
that clouds everything immediately.
Yep.
And counterintuitively, that's what's giving so much fuel to the protests. Counterintuitively, obviously, if you're a conservative.
Yeah.
Because protests are inherently disruptive. Like,
Yep.
take, for example, the sit-ins. Like, the conservative arguments coming from the White House are just so weak. Something like, oh, but they're conducting themselves illegally with obstruction, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, let's superimpose that same argument onto the sit-ins of the 60s, which is exactly what happened. These
Yeah.
were viewed very unfavorably.
Yeah.
Like, these are people, freedom riders, you know, the whites of the town would know 3 days in advance that they were going to come in and they were going to dine in a place that they weren't allowed to,
Mhm.
which was illegal, like categorically,
Mhm.
at both the private and the state level, because these businesses were privately segregated. And then there were state mandates as to how they had to be segregated.
Mhm.
Like they had to have X height on the wall
Yeah.
or whatever. And so these student protesters come in and they sit down, you know, they're breaking the law.
Yep.
And they're refusing to listen to law enforcement as they break it.
Mhm.
And then they get berated violently.
Mhm.
But without, in hindsight, you know, without this cloud of emotion that we are currently being swept under, like with the murder of Charlie Kirk, how you just explained. When you read it in a history textbook, you're like, okay, that's not really a sufficient argument to justify all the violence that was imparted on them,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're not looking at that like, I don't think anyone 50 years from now is going to be like, well, that ICE agent, you know, he had been ran over 6 months prior.
Mm.
Like, it's like, maybe you should have a little bit more composure.
Mhm.
And it's like, I think that's going to be the takeaway for a lot of this immigration-related stuff,
Mhm.
where it's like, why was this violence so misdirected? Why, like, if you have an issue with all this illegal immigration, why would you not go after the people who you think are flooding these gates, quote unquote?
Yeah.
Like, I know that's like common right-wing verbiage.
Mhm. My question, I think, like from all of that, I genuinely, I am super interested to hear if you think it's like, do you think it's possible? Because I 100% agree. Like when you were talking about Lincoln and you were talking about somebody who like gives this, you know, air of passivity or just being, you know, at least
Like a decent man.
yeah, just a decent man. It's interesting to me because I think that was what was attempted through Joe Biden. You know, rather than go like
I agree.
After Trump, it was more of like, let's return to normal, you know, we're
Yeah.
good again. But what I hear a lot from the left now is that was the wrong move. Like you've you know, Destiny, right? Who his big thing is, yeah, that was the wrong way. The Democrats should have said what just happened was totally wrong, and we're going to throw the book at everybody. Admittedly, Biden was pretty effective. I don't think he was the, you know, fascist I don't think he was as bad as Republicans make him out to be. But I think to some extent, you know, there were elements, you know, you had the dark Biden moment. I think there's always been a flirtation with this kind of retribution. And I think that's what we're going to see in the midterms and in the next election. I don't think the midterms are going to go well for Republicans. And I think there is now a large, there's an appetite. There's an appetite for dark woke among the left.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
believe that return to like passivity is plausible on either side at this point? And, you know, not even prescriptively, just like descriptively, do you think that that's possible? I hope that's the case. I agree with you. I think if a president, and this is kind of my goal, right? I want to be as effective as possible. And I think by, you know, not doing the polemics stuff, or at least reducing how much you do them, I think you become much better as an executive. I think you become much better in politics.
I think the imagery, I think the imagery is so gruesome that people have an appetite for an equally gruesome retribution.
Yeah.
And I think what's most effective, which I would like to see, is that of the Lincoln strategy, where Lincoln was a very bold politician.
Mhm.
Like even long before he reached the presidency, but especially the policy that he was enacting in the presidency.
Mhm.
But having the appearance of a decent man who like is interested in a reconciliation, like his quotes often point to like something that almost seems to betray what he was doing applicatively in politics, like a house divided cannot stand.
Mhm.
But never once was it even a consideration to engage in negotiations with the with the Confederacy that would meaningfully bring an end to the war without a reconciliation. So like all of these very bold politics under the veil of like, I don't know, reprieve. And I see this kind of in like James Tallarico, where he's
Dude,
asked.
that's literally who I'm thinking of. I'm like, dude, sorry. I've said this so many times on the stream where I'm like, the hardest candidate for the right to win against would be James Tallarico.
Yeah.
He would be a death sentence for the right.
Yeah. Like, because, I mean, you watch his debate with Crockett, when he's asked about abolishing ICE, he optically reaffirms that he would. But he does it in a way where it doesn't seem like there's anything particularly combative about what he's saying or anything particularly radical. And I think that's the only way to get where I would desire us to get to. I think the reason that it wasn't as successful with Joe Biden is because there was a glaring hypocrisy in the fact that he ran on like a kindness and like a politic of the soul, and then sent however much munitions to conduct like the most horrific genocide people have seen in years and decades, just for the next strong man to like the villain of America to not pale in comparison to what he was doing there, like nothing close.
Do you think that's what it was? It was like the hypocrisy that underwrote the Biden presidency. Like I'm not a Democrat, so I don't understand just how impactful the issue of like the war in Gaza was on the prospects of the Biden admin.
I think the affordability crisis was a death sentence to begin with, especially in conjunction with his like mental impairments and his deteriorating cognition. But outside of that, I think even like if those weren't factors, that in and of itself would have been immediately damning. Like there was no prospect there because there's like an HR politics to the Democratic Party that carries itself with such insincerity. Like you would never, ever want to hang out with a guy like Dean Withers. I don't care who you are. That's not something that anyone would want to do, because it's just like he doesn't feel like a person. Like that's not a real person. And that was translated into the politics where like, why are you emailing people in Michigan who are Israeli pro-Israel positions, and then like people in Dearborn, things that directly contradict that, all with the veil of like kindness politics, where it's like, oh, we will this like earnestly, and like this, we accept everyone, we tolerate everyone, but you're contributing to like a nation state conducting itself on like a racial genocide.
Yeah. No, this is, dude, I really do think that is one of the big issues. And maybe to round it out with the Dean Withers thing, I think this is one of the worst things about politics, but it's, you have assessed too. You can almost immediately get a grasp of kind of how poisoned people's minds are by politics, just looking at the way they interact and engage. And it's tough because I see Dean, the way he interacts with people, and I admit, like, I see part of myself when I was on political TikTok in him. I see this. I see the audience capture. I see this attempt to be this person that you feel you have to be, and it is so difficult because I understand it creates like that cognitive dissonance in your mind that stretches you so painfully and contributes so negatively to your mental health. But I see that kind of flicker of sincerity in him. I see the kind of person that he probably truly is, the person as well that he doesn't allow himself to be because of the things that he could say in a certain way, the way they would reflect to his audience or the way they would come across to his audience. I think that's the most difficult thing. And I also think that is, maybe if I were to give a criticism of the left wing, I think that's the biggest problem, is that there is truly the framework of intersectionality, it makes it so difficult to engage sincerely on many issues because your motives are then undermined, or they are people are suspicious of your motives if you strike up, fighting for one cause without adopting all of them at once. And
yeah, and that's a very performative adaptation of intersectionality.
Yeah.
That's vapid.
yeah,
Like that's something that I found I've had a qualm with when I think back on everything that went wrong and how we're in this position that we are.
Mhm.
And I mean, thinking back to 2020, there was almost like this shock therapy where there wasn't an intellectual substance to why people were arriving at progressive movements, because a lot of the people that I saw posting very far left politics in 2020, I saw mourning Charlie Kirk last year. And
Mhm.
so it seems like quite substanceless.
Mhm.
And the only thing that I could really arrive at is there was a shock therapy where it was like almost like a collective counterculture to go left because it was the end of the Trumpist era, seemingly.
Yep.
And like that was countercultural, like it was sticking it to the man, and people embraced a politic that they didn't understand.
Yep.
And it was like a radical departure from what they previously possessed as like normative standards. And I mean, I don't think I was wrong in going in that direction. Like I hold most of the beliefs that I had
Mhm.
back then.
Yeah.
And the only difference is that, like, I think there was a portion of the population that really vetted those ideals before they embraced them,
Yes.
who already had the capacity to be going in that direction. But the vast majority did not. And what ended up happening is they were policing one another because for them it was like a performance. It was an aesthetic. And it was an aesthetic that they kind of want to have a one-up on another person.
Yep.
And the insincerity of it all resulted in this media appetite by people who were not convinced being filled with who I think is like the lowest of the low, which is why I reached out for this conversation, because I wanted to see, like, and in my doc is going to be on like irony, reels, and the presentation of right-wing politics through it all.
Yeah.
And so like the serious insincerity of the normative liberal wing in 2020 through 2022 caused this like absolutely unparalleled rise of people like Nick Fuentes, who filled a vacancy by just being truthful with what they believed in a way that seemingly no one was doing anymore.
Yeah.
And even though it seemed so radical, a lot of people turn to this guy and it's like, he comes off as intelligent.
Mhm.
And if he sincerely holds these beliefs, I should at least come to understand why.
Yep.
And then through the presentation of them, they ended up embracing them
Mhm.
because no one else was filling that void. And I think the main aim of any politic, especially concerning the youth,
Mhm.
should be understanding the vigor of their youth and then appropriating it in the right direction.
Mhm.
And that's where the right wing was so successful in the 2024 election cycle.
Mhm.
You had all of these podcasters who were quote unquote apolitical,
Yeah.
but they were very political.
Absolutely.
And in their apolitic, what they successfully did was present the world as if it is just right wing.
Yep.
I'm just some dude and I hold X beliefs.
Mhm.
And everyone in this ecosystem does. I just haven't been vocal about it.
Yeah.
And this is not a political position. This is an apolitical position. So then, like, the normative counterculture became right wing because it's like, wait, we all have
believe
held
this.
these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to some extent, I think that's inevitable. You saw that in 2016, right? Like the response to political correctness, which was performative. It's like the performative political correctness that existed on social media and in the mainstream news. I think that created Donald Trump, and that same success with young men existed in 2016 that existed in 2024.
It's because liberalism is so vapid.
Yes. And
there's no substance to it.
What I'll say though is that maybe to get back to the beginning, and I think we got to end it right here because we've been going for a long time, but
yeah,
this is what I see right now from, characters like Tucker Carlson, right? You have this flirtation with sincerity, and you have this flirtation with, you know, the honesty, right, that people admire when they see somebody like Nick Fuentes. Tucker Carlson attempts to emulate this, and what does he do? He talks with Piers Morgan and says the F slur like over and over and over, but then right after he goes, and you know, I would never say the N word. And you look at that and it's like, then what was all of this for? It is so fake. It is so performative and vapid, that I think it just becomes so clear to people what the true goals of these individuals are, and that really at the end of the day is why you have characters and individuals, you know, like Nick Fuentes take off, is because you're right. It seems like one honest voice in a sea of just this consumerative or this consumerist kind of political slop, which is always regulated by these unspoken, unwritten rules, the exact kind of rules that when there was an appearance made of them being broken in 2016 with Trump winning, despite saying all of these terribly offensive things, that's the kind of stuff that that people gravitate to. The issue now is that itself, the counterculture itself, is being manufactured, and it's been manufactured so successfully that it no longer is the counterculture. And when people start to realize that, when they start to realize that all of the podcast bros are right wing, where can I hear a left wing voice? I think that's where you're going to start to see the collapse. That's at least my theory.
Yeah,
but
I concur, and I think we can leave it at that.
Yeah, dude, it's good chatting with you, and you know what you said about your own motives. This is what I respect more than anything. Is like you're a leftist. Do you refer to yourself as a leftist? What do you think is the most appropriate title for your leaning?
Yeah, I guess like a liberal left.
Mm-hmm. That, you know, this is what I can respect, is that there's ideological consistency. The thing I hate more than anything is when there is a lack of consistency, because it shows that, again, people they don't truly believe these ideas. And there's something very admirable in people who do. So, despite the fact that, you know, I don't know where either of us would end up in either of our ideal political situations. Maybe I get put in a gulag.
I think in your system, I'm back home.
I don't know about that.
That's not a home.
Your complexion might be fair enough for us to let it slide. So, no, really, you know, at the end of the day, what I want is I want Utah back, man. I want an LDS majority in Utah. I think that's maybe what that's my most important issue right now, is that Utah is Californianized, or that it needs to stop being Californianized.
Well, maybe when it gets to California, I'll visit it.
When Deseret comes back. Yes, sir. Well, hey, man, I appreciate the chat. I hope that my answers were at least helpful in the documentary, in the video you're making. I will say one thing to look into, because I was thinking a lot about the when you discussed with Dean, while you were pretending to be a conservative, which you did very well, and that shows good like intellectual rigor. The argument concerning the violent crime of illegal immigrants. I will say I'm interested, maybe if you could shoot me this in the Discord messages, I would be interested to hear your rebuttal of the point that you made to Dean, which was a good one, concerning the fact that immigration crime averages are not being felt as an average. They're being felt disproportionately.
Yeah, like there's not like a national.
Yes. Yeah. There's not like there's no average American. You know, the average crime rate of an illegal immigrant is going to be higher than the average rate of crime in Allen, Texas, or in a smaller part of Texas, right? Nonetheless, one of the big things I would say to look into on that is that the average of crime among illegal immigrants, it's a statistic that's it represents a kind of flaw in data collection, because it can't be compared to the average rate of crime of Americans, because the American crime rate is largely hiked up due to reoffenders, and you can't deport a reoffender. So if you were to, and I don't know, I'd have to look into the statistics and see if there's been a data analysis. From everything I've seen, there hasn't been. But if you could eliminate the rate of crime of reoffenders, or how much of the crime is reoffense, which is huge. I think the rate of recidivism within 10 years is like 70%, which is crazy. If you could eliminate that from the overall rate of crime, the average rate of crime in the United States, it would probably make it lower than the average rate of crime. This is, me supposing this. I don't have any evidence to back it up, but it seems reasonable to conclude that it's lower.
Have you looked into the methodology? I would be surprised if they don't already account for reoffenses.
The Texas study? I'll have to look into the methodology of the Texas study.
I haven't looked into the Texas study. That was something I referenced like abstractly.
That's the one that I hear referenced all the time, that same Texas study. And there's been a couple actually out of Texas because it's just the best place to do the data collection. But there's a couple, and I'll look into the methodologies to see if they don't control for reoffense. The issue is that from everything I've seen, reoffense is something that's typically not even, like, there's not a good number of how much of violent crime is reoffenders. Or at least it's not easily attainable, but I'm sure I could find it. Anyway, that was just something I wanted to throw in because, I've been thinking a lot about it. I enjoy trying to come up with, what's going to be the best liberal response to this. It's what everybody should be doing. So anyway, man, thank you for chatting. I appreciate you. It's good to catch up. I hope you and your family have been well. And I look forward to watching the video whenever it comes out.
Thank you for your time.
Of course, man. Have a good one. All right. So that was a conversation with Ilya. He is an old political TikTok contemporary. I got massive respect for the guy. We could not be more ideologically distant, but he's super, what I really think it is he's highly intelligent. This is a highly intelligent guy, more intelligent than I am, I believe, probably. Maybe just more studied, but very smart guy. And the fact that we come to the same criticisms of the right and the left, it is what it is. I love, though, dude, am I on or what? James Tallarico, he's the number one threat to the right wing. Number two, you need this passive president. You need a president who is in every sense presidential and is able to do things without people paying attention. That is the key. Calvin Coolidge, another example. Anyway, Ava Christensen, 6171 says, you should come speak at BYU. I speak at BYU every day in my classes. No, but I'd be down. Joe the Boomer. Oh, man, I love Joe the Boomer. He says, I have a merry crew. You should join us sometime, Kai, and play Valheim with us. Is that game still around? Dude, I'd be down. I'd be down to stream Valheim. Are you guys playing that right now? If you're playing that right now, I will literally buy this game. Hey, yo, Joe the Boomer, super chat me however much it is. And I'll buy it and I'll play it. Should we play Valheim on Steam, guys? Should we do that? I have never played Valheim in my life. Okay. Oh, hold on. There's some lag going on. This is weird. Okay. I think it's better. We got a couple super chats here. Let's jump on over. All right. Asian Mormon. Love you, big guy. Love you, big guy.
Asian Mormon sent $8.80 anti-Goy-Slop.
Thank you so much, Mr. Asian Mormon. $8.88. What an interesting number. I wonder why he picks that number. Asian Mormon, we really appreciate you. Love you, big guy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Total goat. Total legend. Is Ilya on anything other than TikTok? I deleted that app. No, he's on YouTube. Mother of the Groom. Mother of the Groom is his YouTube channel. I encourage you to watch his. Just be sure not to be convinced. Watch his videos, but don't turn into a leftist. But watch his videos. They're very good. Mother of the Groom is what his account is called. And he did a video recently. Where is this? Debate Bros, the death of Charlie Kirk and dishonesty of Dean Withers. Great video. Very well done. I thought it was a good analysis from a left-wing perspective. But hey, Joe, if you've got a merry crew, you know what I've been yearning to play? I've been yearning to play some Sea of Thieves. You guys remember Sea of Thieves? That game is epic. I would love to be playing that game. Okay, let's see how much Valheim is. Helldivers is on sale. That looks like a fun game too. You guys should Steam gift me games that you want me to play. $20. Very positive reviews. Oh, you get to play on a pirate ship in Valheim? Okay, maybe I do got to play this game. I guess it's like a Viking ship, really. It's not a pirate ship. Brutal exploration survival game for 1 to 10 players set in a procedurally generated purgatory inspired by Viking culture. Battle, build, and conquer your way to a saga worthy of Odin's patronage. It looks kind of dope. Looks kind of dope, not gonna lie. I'd be down. I would be down. Joe the Boomer, I'd be down to do that. And Sophia, hey, let's go. Cat Groiper. Love you, Mr. Cat Groiper. What a goat.
Cat Groiper sent $10.
Hey, thank you, man. Thank you, Cat Groiper, for the 10. Love you. I don't know if you meant to send a message with that. If you did, send the message in the chat. Just let me know it was you. Because there was no message. If it was just money, hey, I love that too. Just money, it's one of my favorite things. And yo, who else do we have? Sophia 0987. Thank you so much for the $2. She says, "Hey Kai, hope you feel better. I think we all just need to appreciate you and Asian Mormons bangers. By the way, you a Linkin Park fan? Because if you are, what's your favorite song? If not, you need to check them out." Of course I know Linkin Park. Of course. I actually was put back on during my mission because I would work out with a member family who, admittedly, I probably shouldn't have listened, but they were playing Linkin Park in the mornings when we would work out. One of my favorite songs of theirs, Burn It Down, of course, banger, but Faint. Tell me this is not a banger, bro. Total banger. Just a big fan. Big fan of that. Big fan of Linkin Park. We love Linkin Park. Sucks that they have a female singer now, but oh well, you know. Nothing good lasts forever. And hey, thank you for the kind words. We appreciate you. Natty Camp Hero, you gotta watch the stream I did the other day. I talk all about the Sarah situation on that last stream.
We're here at the Epstein.
Oop, hold on. It's one of Ilya's videos. Hey, gentlemen. Yo, cat. What a goat. Yo, can we get a meow? Yo, can we get the cat gif in the kick chat? Can we get a cat gif in the kick chat for Meow Groiper? Cat gif in the chat.
Cat Groiper sent
cat twerk. Hey, yo, somebody send the cat twerking, or somebody the kaiclips salute. The cat salute. Send the cat salute. Yo, holy goat. Holy goat.
Lockie sent $30.
Huge.
I didn't hear a response earlier, so I'll ask again. Did you hear my brothers yell at the ice
Hey,
protesters?
Thank you, Lockie. The answer was I don't know. The answer is I don't know who your brothers are. So I'm not sure. But total, dude, if they were there, I'd heard them probably. If they were there outside of the Wendy's where I was, absolutely. And it was epic, and it was a lot of fun. Dude, that was so much. I'm just mad I missed the content. I had my Meta glasses, and I really haven't used them much before. But I wasn't able to get as many recordings as I thought. I thought I was recording the whole time. I had so many funny interactions, bro. There's one clip I had that was really funny that was like, I go up to this guy. I'm like, "Hey, why are you saying swear words?" And we talk back and forth, and he goes, and I'm like, "Well, what do you think, like, that we shouldn't have any immigration enforcement?" And he goes, "Oh, is this what we're doing? I don't want to talk to you." And I'm like, "You don't want to talk to me about immigration?" He's like, "Yeah, no, I don't want to talk to you." I'm like, "Well, what's this protest about?" He goes, "Immigration." And I'm like, "You don't want to talk about immigration? Like, what are we doing?" So anyway, that was it. And Lockie, I'm sure I did hear them if they were there at the Wendy's. It was funny because from afar, it looked like the protesters were protesting Wendy's. They were trying to get the biggie bag back, or the 4 for 4. That's really what we need to have. We really need to have the 4 for 4 come back. Lockie says, I guess he doesn't know the scale of the protest. Maybe not then. If they were yelling just from a car, I may not have heard them. What did they yell? Did they yell a slur? What did they yell? But hey, anyway, Lockie, thank you so much for the 30. Sophia 0987, thank you so much. Guys, if you want to continue to support the show, please go subscribe on the Gumroad. That's one of the best things you can do. That way you get early access to content. We will be releasing more content this week. I promise. I promise. More debates coming out. We've got a wonderful debate coming out between me and a gentleman who simply did not understand crime in the United States of America. Kind of a chicken and egg situation, but nonetheless, amazing video. Just wait. You're going to love it. Next, please, if you would like to continue supporting the show, be sure to follow on Twitter. That's where I announce the streams. Follow on Rumble, on Kick. Kick is where we really are trying to increase it so we can become Kick partners. And be sure as well to follow us on Instagram and on YouTube. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, literally what are you doing? Literally what the heck are you doing? Lockie, I think I did hear that actually. I think I did. So yeah, just be sure to subscribe. Love you guys so much. Big shout out to Lockie, Cat Groiper, Asian Mormon, Sophia. Thank you guys so much for all the super chats, for all the support on the stream today. It's been a blast hanging out. Unfortunately, for today. Oh, one more announcement. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be at the State of the Union address. Big news, gentlemen. I got a call from the Big Burgess. Got a call from the Big Burgess the other day. Mr. Schwimmer. Hey, yo, you trying to pop out? You trying to pop out at the State of the Union? And I said, Mr. Owens, Representative Owens, I would be delighted to attend the State of the Union. So I will be there in the, watching from afar, but I will be in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital for the first time in my life to see the State of the Union on the 24th. So, yeah. Based. Anyway, see you guys there. We'll also be at the University of Berkeley, California, UC Berkeley, on the 17th, if I'm not mistaken, of February. Was about to send more. Hey, no, Lockie, hey, no worries, man. Send more money. Hey, we're still doing the stream. Don't worry, the stream's still going. Send more money. Send more money, Lockie. Lockie, no, please. We'll keep going all night. This is what it's like to be audience whipped. This is what it's like to have your stream run by Lockie Key, and Asian Mormon. George Soros and Rebecca Mercer. That's her name, right? Rebecca? Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen in the chat. I do gotta, I gotta do a bunch of stuff though. I gotta get 8 hours of sleep. If I don't get 8 hours tonight, I'm not gonna make it to church tomorrow. And I gotta make it to church tomorrow. It's the day of rest. Guys, he doesn't want to spoil it, but he's actually giving the address. Okay. Tice, come on, man. You didn't have to out me like that, bro. Sussy baka. You did not have to do that. Should I give you guys a trailer? We just got a couple guys in on the stream right now. Should I give you guys a trailer of the video coming out soon? And hold on, I gotta pull back up I had to pull back up my own YouTube video. Okay, I can't find it. Hey, Lockie. Oh, what a goat. What a goat. There he is. There's our goat right there. Thank you, Lockie.
Lockie sent $30 thoughts on Jacob Hansen. I think he has very little charisma and lies too much. Bad rep emo.
I'll be honest. I do really like Jacob Hansen. His politics suck. I really we gotta win this guy over. I don't know I want to debate him. I want to debate him on Ward Radio soon. But I'll say, I've been talking with my LDS or with my Catholic buddies, and I've been watching some of his recent apologetics content. And he does, a lot of times, to be fair, everybody does it. Everybody quote mines. But I think there's just some stuff where I don't know. I've been maybe unimpressed with some of his recent apologetics. And I hope it improves a little bit. I think he's almost too, he's like the go-to guy for LDS apologetics. And I think there is probably some stuff that he should flesh out a little more. His Book of Mormon apologetics are really good, but I think as it gets outside of that, I look at somebody like Robert Boylan, And I think Robert Boylan is probably a better, at least as it concerns Catholics, he's probably a better apologetics rep for Catholics, like to talk with Catholics. And I don't know, you'd have to mention some specifics of stuff he lies about, but I'm not saying that's impossible. I've seen some things where I'm like, look, he was talking about Augustine, I think, when he was asked about abortion, and he goes, my take is Augustine's take. And then you hear the response from what's his name? You hear the response from Joe Hersheimer. Is that his name? I think so. The Catholic apologist. And it's just like, look, Jacob's understanding of Augustine's theology and metaphysics was just not very rigorous. Yeah, exactly. We're talking about the same dude. Lockie, you and me, we're keyed in. Lockie is keyed in, so am I. You see that we're locked in. We're locked and keyed in. Yeah, I thought his response concerning the Augustinian position of ensoulment, I thought that was poorly defended, and it's very clear. Joe Hersheimer's response was perfect, and it's unfortunate. I think there needs to be a better, more rigorous defense. I don't know if it would go to lying, because I sincerely think he believes what he's saying, but I don't think it's rigorous. So that's not me saying I have better answers, but I also to some extent believe that it's maybe bad framing. Maybe the LDS framing of like, oh well, I believe in this thing that this Catholic saint said. Why do we have to adopt that framing? Why can't we have an original, authentic metaphysics and theology? I much prefer somebody like a Blake Ostler, who's willing to come out and have maybe even revolutionary ideas about some LDS theology. I like that a lot. I don't think everything has to be reductive. But anyway, hey guys, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the stream. I've really enjoyed hanging out with you fellas. It's been a good time. Support the show everywhere. See me in UC Berkeley. See me at the State of the Union in DC. Unfortunately for today, we are out of time. We'll see you again on Monday. Adios.
I think he has very little charisma and lies.
This is awkward. Adios.